Welcome back to Track Talk. We're going to be jumping right into a game of 1870. Looks like I'll be going second in the auction behind Misher. While we're waiting for some of the early actions here, why don't we just jump in and see who these players are? Actually, it looks like I will be taking an action first. So I will go on shipping for now, and then while we wait for them, I'll just look at their profiles. Misher, no LOs posted, but if we look at 70, um, looks like he's been in 6 games before, and one of them was one that we called just a minute ago. The other ones, he has won one and two of them, so approaching a 50% win rate, pretty good. Merlin of Chaos is a newer player, self-identified, so he'll be getting some teaching throughout this game, but I believe he has a number of games of 18xx in general on the site, so should know the mechanics to some extent. And then John Flagg, um, he has a very large number of games, but almost all of them are 1846. Has a fair number of 70 games though, so I think he's going to be the player to kind of watch in this game and make sure that he doesn't get too far ahead of the rest of the pack. And it looks like Merlin has gone on cattle, and John Flagg is going to go for the Katie here. So this is a potentially dangerous auction. Could see a pretty early pull here, and some of the higher value privates going for pretty close to face. Misher has identified that and has joined on the Katie, putting him on the two most expensive privates. So it's going to be hard for him to price enforce if the auction goes off as it currently stands. I don't really like cattle. I think I've said that before in other videos. I don't also feel inclined to go on the Frisco, so I may just go on the bridge and risk an early pull here. I don't think it'll be terrible for me, but it's probably not that great for the table if the Misher player is unable to price enforce the Katie, but that's a risk I'm willing to take. It would probably be a mistake for Merlin of Chaos to pull here. He would get two privates at near face, but they're not exciting or good, really, return on their investment privates compared to some of the others. He would give me a much greater value for a similar, investment, so to speak, and then puts Misher in kind of a rough spot. So I imagine that Merlin is going to overbid me on one of these privates. Potentially could also go on the Frisco. And if he were to go on the Frisco, I assume John Flagg is going to overbid me on golf or, yeah, probably golf. So not entirely sure what we'll see here, but I do think it would probably be a mistake to just pull, even though I've opened it up for him. And it looks like we did see just a quick pull here. So I feel pretty happy with how I've left that auction, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Katie. Misher is working on selecting a par for the SLSF. Most likely going to be picking 100, but again, I think it's going to be hard for him to price enforce. So we do see a $100 par, and hopefully he is willing to stick with this private for just a little bit at least. I suppose it's not unreasonable for him to stick with it a little bit higher than I initially first thought because he also doesn't have any private income. Um, John Flagg should end up winning this, but hopefully we'll see a little bit of a price enforcement. Looking at my position, pretty good revenue, decent privates. Put myself under the threshold to float, which is not great, but I will be able to float in the second stock round, so I may just sit on private revenue rather than investing in other players' companies. Looks like the Katie goes for 180, and Merlin actually wins it. Oh, sorry, Misher actually wins it. So John is leaving without a private. Not a amazing position to be in, I wouldn't say. Not untenable, but it is painful not having something to loot your companies with. Misher, on the other hand, is pretty heavily capitalized, and as a result, may have some trouble when he tries to invest his capital. I guess I could contest the SLSF. He has enough to defend, but if he were to invest in another share, and lock up liquidity, I could steal it, which would be an interesting opportunity. Steal his $1,000 treasury. He's probably just going to sit on cash. That should be a pretty obvious risk. The alternative way for me to float would be if John Flagg didn't take the Katie, um, and that would be a gift to me. I'd be happy to run the Katie with decent privates and just have a fast start to the game. But I think both of those scenarios are pretty unlikely. So most likely I'll just be sitting on cash and then hoping to float in stock round two. And the companies that I'll be looking at really depend on what the other players do. I control the river, which if I don't float a company in stock round one, is going to constrict to some extent the other players' options. So interesting. John is taking the SOPAC, not the KD, which I think greatly increases the likelihood that I will be able to get the KD. I don't think that Misher can really protect that, and he decides to pass. Okay, so this is working out pretty well for me. Looking at the par values, all par at 68. I'd like to operate late and potentially have the ability to buy in my private or privates. So we'll go with the Katie. And Merlin of Chaos is going to be bringing up the rear in this last stock round here. We'll see what he elects to take. Again, I'm controlling the bridge, so he needs to be a little bit careful that he doesn't fall into a trap. I think this is his first play of 1870 by starting a company that's going to be kneecapped by the bridge. No guarantee that I buy that in early. I think I got to admit here, though, that I really feel like I've been given a gift so far in the early game. So I'm liking my odds in this one, but still plenty of time in the game for me to mess up. Can't get overconfident, especially when someone that has over 100 games of 70 on dot games in the game. I will note that I took the Katie, which is not going to synergize very well with the Gulf shipping. I'm going to have to head down south to take advantage of that. That wasn't really a consideration when I decided to take the Katie. I was just looking for something that I could float. But it is a little bit of a lost efficiency in the fact that I can't probably take greatest advantage of my private. So it looks like Merlin has gone on to take the Katie's sister company, the Santa Fe. We're seeing the Frisco player just pass, and the SOPAC is continuing to float. So I'll just buy my Katie shares, and I anticipate everyone just buying their own shares. Misher may sit on capital, may elect to invest after everybody has put in 60% of their company, or in my case, 50%. And just looking at the par, Santa Fe got parred high. So Frisco buys a two train, Santa Fe buys a two train, SOPAC buys a two train. There's four left. If any of them buys two trains, I may be able to snag my privates early. Misher is actually coming back, and well, it looked like he was investing in my company, but he's just going to sit on it for now and rethink that. Investing in the Santa Fe, I think that's the right move, especially if one of these new players buys in two trains. Could be very easy to buy three twos and a three into the Katie, and then my privates and dump. So needs to be careful that he doesn't leave this stock round with a dump opportunity. That would be quite easy. Katie's a pretty good company throughout the game, so it wouldn't be the end of the world for him to end up with it, but it is a rough start to end up with a depleted treasury. He may be able to come back from a dump if he protects the Frisco's treasury well and doesn't just splurge and go on a spending spree early in the game, but it would be probably less than ideal. John Flagg is pausing here a little bit, just considering if he wants to invest in any companies. I would assume that he's not going to buy any of the Frisco. It's just so expensive. But it would not be unreasonable to buy shares early and start depleting that IPO. That is one of the kind of strengths of the Frisco, is that it tends not to get invested in so early because it's so expensive and is able to just sit on its shares. Looks like John Flagg is just passing, so I'll probably be going at least third in priority. Merlin may decide to buy a share, but neither of the other players have the ability or inclination. We do pass into the first operating round. and the Frisco is first to operate. Be curious to see if he heads up north or down towards Little Rock. Um, when I played the Frisco, I oftentimes will head down to Little Rock just to allow the KD player and Santa Fe to declare kind of what their intentions are. But it looks like he's going to be racing towards Topeka, and technically he has his options open, can head towards Kansas City or Topeka. Um, but I find it hard to believe that he's going to be able to snag one of those tokens. So that may end up just being track that is beneficial to the other players. It would be interesting for me on the KD to head down to Springfield and cut this track for the Santa Fe. He may have the same thought and just head directly down to the Frisco. That would be bad for me, especially if we don't break into green. I won't have a city to run to. I'll have to run to that DIT for $40. Looks like he just bought a single train in the Frisco, so we'll see if anybody falls for this trap of buying two trains. So far, he's playing friendly. I imagine with that orientation, he will link up with the uh, Santa Fe or the Frisco, which he does, um, which will potentially cut me out. But he does do me the favor of buying two trains, so a little bit of a mixed bag from my perspective. I think that track was the right move. Um, it's going to make it hard for me to get a token down south. Granted, my ultimate destination is down here in the southwest, so I don't necessarily have to head into Springfield, but I do like to have that option, and I would have taken it had it been available. So we're looking at the Southern Pacific now. Ultimately, going to be looking to head towards New Orleans, so probably going to be just making a beeline across the map. May stop in Austin for, yeah, he's going to stop in Austin for a run, but expect him to head pretty directly west or east after this. Having said that, he defies expectations and is going to set himself up for 2 runs, it looks like. One train into Austin, one train into Galveston. So may see him buy two trains as well, which would really make my job of getting my privates bought in quite a lot easier. So despite kind of telegraphing that he'd be heading in for um, 2 trains, he ultimately decides not to. So I have an option of cities here. Obviously going to be laying my home token, and then the question is where to go from there. I do need to be a little bit worried about losing out on this Topeka token, which if I open up green, Santa Fe, the SLSF is going to steal that token probably. So if I lay the sharp turn here, I may be able to get this upgrade and bypass Topeka early in the game. Alternatively, it would leave me the option to upgrade into the track to run into Springfield, since I'll have 3 trains. Okay, let's lay this for now. Because I control if green breaks, so I don't need to lay towards the DIT. So we'll buy all the trains and then all the privates here. Do I buy the bridge and open that up? Or do I sit on revenue and buy it in the next operating round? I'm tempted to sit on it just to restrict people's options a little bit. It won't affect any of the companies that are operating right now, except for potentially the Frisco, but probably not in the first operating round. And I technically can't buy it in for full value. I have 240, which is not going to be enough to float, but it will be enough to buy paying shares. So I don't think I need the extra money. I may just sit on it and then withhold, sell a share and withhold. Won't be able to float in the next stock round a new company anyway. Okay, we'll sit on the river for now. Into the next stock round, John Flagg is leading us off. Kind of an aggressive start from my perspective, but if we have newer players, that may end up paying out for me. And I also don't want to fall behind in trains. Probably going to need green track to open up fairly quickly based on the way the track has developed so far. John Flagg, he's buying paying shares in the Santa Fe, makes sense. People are probably going to be a little bit reluctant to buy my shares since they may be expecting me to sell down and float, which is fair. But I don't think I'm actually going to do that. I would have to sell down pretty heavily to buy these shares. If I were to do that, someone would certainly steal that presidency, and it would not be bad because it would be in yellow, and they could just withhold with a minimal presidency to rehabilitate the Katy, which has a pretty good map position. I am looking at the cotton. Cotton has the um, port tile that I need for my private, although I've already bought that into the Katy, so maybe less relevant. Everybody's jumping on this Katy. And in terms of priority, I'm probably going to be going last. So I'm a little bit nervous or a little bit hesitant about buying shares. I also can't buy a share of the Katy and then redeem it into the company because it doesn't have enough cash, which is unfortunate. I need someone to sell a share so I can drop down a little bit. But it looks like I'll just be buying paying shares and should probably just buy the Santa Fe, deplete the other players' treasuries, and then just get a little bit of a head start in terms of net worth from having a share lead. It's unlikely that I will sell. Okay, so he's price protecting, or he's selling, giving me the option to price protect, and I like that um, because I can get a share without losing a share action. So I was going to lose priority by buying a lot of shares. Now potentially I can sit and just take my 2 shares. We'll have to make that decision later. So if I drop, I can redeem that share into the company, or I can price protect it. Let's protect it. I believe that disallows me from redeeming that share into the company. I would have to hot seat this game and just check that rule. Even if I had the $64, I think that I could not redeem that share into the Katy now that I've price protected it. So we'll see what John Flagg does here. I think, unfortunately, the price protection is not going to allow me to fully invest my capital anyway because he only has 1 share left to buy. So if I buy another share, I will um, lose the priority. May let him buy a share and then just try and go second in priority. That way I can hope to sell these shares after they've paid twice and then float my own company. That may be the move. The only problem is that Misher may be inclined to sell before I can in the next stock round. He is the Frisco president, so needs to be a little bit careful about floating that he doesn't leave the Frisco open for a theft. So maybe I'll be safe. I think I probably will just sit on $100. Painful to sit on $100, especially when I push trains in order to get this cash. But I do think that it could be valuable going second in priority. So I will pass here and we'll see what happens. 1870 is a game where I think you have to be a little bit more conservative with investing your cash just because of that price protection mechanism. So sitting on $100 is painful, but maybe not the end of the world. I'm not sure exactly what happens here. Looks like we're having some undos, which is frustrating. Um, this does potentially give me a priority. We'll see if Misher wants to buy another share. Not sure why he's selling out. But I will, is he just trashing companies? He's taking a hit in terms of net worth to trash companies here. If I buy the Santa Fe, I won't be able to price protect, but as it stands here, I won't be able to price protect if he sells both shares. So that's fine. I will buy the cheap ATSF and then hope that Misher is continuing to take actions, giving me priority. I could have been just tricked and surrendered priority with that action, but if Misher is eager to change operating order, he's now going second to last or last. I think I would have been happier if he had not done that undo and I had left in second priority guaranteed. There's now a chance that I'll end. I think there's more undoing happening here. I might pause the recording to see exactly what's going on here. So Misher pretty heavily invested in the Katy right now. He is not fearing the dump. And I will hope that he doesn't sell shares and then dump it in the next stock round. Probably withhold, lay some bad track, buy in my private, and then dump it. I may even be able to steal his Frisco if that were to occur. So he needs to be a little bit careful here. Looks like everybody's passing. Am I going to be able to leave with priority here, or is my shares going to be trashed? So he is max invested in the Katy. Um, this seems pretty risky from his perspective. And we'll see if anybody wants to mess this up. In theory, they could take company actions, even though they're out of cash, and redeem shares. We've already seen that happen with the Santa Fe. That could be a way for me to lose priority. And I really hope that doesn't happen. I think, it could make sense from their perspective to redeem a share, but boy, it's going to cost me priority pretty hard. And that's exactly what we see. So Misher has navigated this pretty well and ended up with priority into the next stock round, despite being fully invested in the Katy. That is frustrating. Katy's going to be floating up. And if I withhold twice, him selling out would put me into brown. It's pretty deep into the protected area of the market, which would be nice. But also, if I withhold twice to do it, it'll have plenty of cash in the company, maybe less likely that I'll dump, and we can end up running a split presidency. Should be interesting regardless. I imagine we're going to see a Topeka upgrade and a token in Topeka. Instead, upgrading his home. That's interesting. Which will give me that token. So I think I just take that token, probably. And then I don't have to worry about the Topeka token that much. Okay, should be able to run my trains now. Not the most amazing revenue. I think I will withhold this first time and pay out the second time when the track should be a little bit better. And this will allow me to buy in my private without difficulty. Santa Fe just had his lunch stolen in Springfield. Need to be a little bit careful that I don't lose out on the ability to run south through Springfield, but I don't think there will be much difficulty with that. In 1870, I tend to really value this spine of the map. I don't know, spine is kind of a weird term to use, but I guess the center of the map. Because of these destinations in the corners, you tend to get I guess almost like an X with a top and a bottom. So you get runs along the Denver, Topeka, Springfield down to Jackson axis, and then a run north, oftentimes from the St. Louis to Kansas City. And often because the SOPAC is motivated to head down south, you'll get a bottom connection there. So I like to lock down the center of the map. I don't find this game to be that tight in terms of tokens and track upgrades. Usually possible to bypass somebody or bypass a token, but especially if you're trying to run a 12 train, the central areas of the map can be pretty crucial to secure early because they will start to fill up. So Santa Fe just laying his home upgrade. No surprises there. Will give me and the Frisco player a little bit of a better run in the next operation. And looks like he's paying out. Because of the upgrades, he's running for a little bit more than I did. And that's the reason I think that I wanted to withhold in this first operation, is so that I can pay with a higher revenue in the next operation, but still have money for my private buy-in if I decide to do it. Southern Pacific's up, and I'm anticipating a lay towards Galveston, but could also just see the Austin upgrade. He only has the single 2 train, so we will see how he's deciding to run this. Looks like he's thinking about his options a little bit. I am hoping that I can shake off this parasite investor in the Katy in the next stock round. So I really don't want this company to look very attractive And in terms of cash, I have $76. He has 4 shares. It's going to be hard for me to price protect that. I think um, even with a payout here and a private buy-in, I probably will not have the 240 some dollars or 250 something dollars to price protect all of that. It'd be pretty incredible if I was able to. 100% of a company is very strong. So instead of heading to Galveston, heading to Houston, and makes sense to do that. Next operating round, if he buys a 3, he'll be able to run both of his trains for um, basically max by completing that loop. He also doesn't have to pay the train costs to Galveston, so makes good sense to do that. We'll have to run into those dits to get across the map down the road, but not the end of the world. Um, Especially with longer trains in the late game, can power through those dits no problem. He actually buys 2 3 trains. Does that put us up against the 4s? Not quite. Frisco has the cash and potentially the motivation to buy them. That would make it a little bit unfortunate in terms of me having all those 2 trains, not being able to run them. My withhold has put me last in operating order, so I am quite vulnerable to that 4 train coming out. We'll see if they want to push trains. I'm also very curious to see where this Frisco decides to token. So he takes the Kansas City, which means that I can still run through Topeka. It's pretty strong. Pretty strong for me, I should say. We'll see if he pushes trains. He's not going to. And I think that if he doesn't buy trains, we will not see anybody buy through to the trains. The Santa Fe will not have the train slots to do it, and neither will the Southern Pacific. So he has bought in his monster Katy private, and will have a ton of cash into the next stock round. It's pretty good for him. And then the Santa Fe player is apparently heading towards the offboard and down south. I'm not entirely clear what's going on there. But it does give me the option of running into Wichita, and if I token into Topeka, I'm going to be able to run all my trains, which seems pretty darn good to me. I don't think I have the money to token and buy in my privates. Definitely do not. Could withhold again and leave my company with very little cash and have a ton of cash into the stock round. That might set me up for 100% ownership of the Katy. That seems interesting, especially with a 3 train. I'm not going to be dead in the water when the 4 trains come out, which is nice. So maybe I'll do that. I don't know. Maybe in retrospect, I'll be looking back on these decisions and see a looming bankruptcy running the Katy so lean. But I think it'll be fun to try. So far, this is looking really great for this payout. Be able to run all 4 of my trains. And I think it would take some collusion between the Santa Fe and the Southern Pacific to prevent that in terms of buying the 3 and then the other company buying the 4. Santa Fe is half paying. Okay. I always kind of neglect the half pay in my play of this game, but this may be a situation where it's reasonable. Doesn't advance my stock price, so doesn't help my parasite in that sense. And when he sells, it makes my shares cheaper for me to buy. And then it allows me to buy in my private while still getting some of the revenue I'm anticipating. This is a little bit concerning from my perspective. So Santa Fe buying that last 3 does potentially open up a 4-train purchase from the Southern Pacific, but he would have to, I think, full withhold to do it. And that's probably not worth it from his perspective. So this will probably be the only run of these 2 trains for me. I don't think he's going to be able to rust them. So I got to take full advantage of it. Probably will just full pay. We'll see. I'll have to see what the actual revenue is and how the money works out. Looks like he's upgrading Houston, and that is a little bit surprising. Could have run an extra train by, instead of upgrading Houston, just laying that track down towards the southwest. So not the most efficient payout for him. I think here I head to Wichita to run my trains. Could also head up to this off board and hit it with the 3 train, which would be $30. Um, but I believe that would only allow me to run 3 trains, because there'd be one from Kansas City to Topeka and then one from Kansas City to Springfield. So instead, I'll head to Wichita. It's kind of a dead end in the long term, but let's head there for now. And I think I will lay the gentle and try to bypass Oklahoma City, just a fewer locations for me to get tokened out of. And yeah, let's token in Topeka, try and disincentivize the other players from investing in my company, and we will end up, I think, just paying this. And if I pay that, Mishra gets half of it. If I half pay it and then buy in my private, I think that's probably strictly better. Um, Reduces the amount of money he gets while minimally impacting my money since I'll be buying in my private. So let's do that. I don't often half pay, like I've said, but I would like to do that this time. And then we'll buy in this for 80, which will leave just $60 in the company. Okay. We are into the stock round, and I should have enough money to price protect if he decides to sell out here. Um, I think that he made a mistake heavily investing in my company. He's kind of put a gun to my head in terms of, you know, making this a good company by splitting the presidency here. Um, that said, he may be reluctant to sell out like this. I could let him drop my shares, put me into green. So it looks like he's inclined to sell here. Would have been really nice if he'd had another share to put me down into brown, but not quite there. So I think I'll price protect everything and end up with 100% of this company. And then I will be forced to rely on other players to afford trains because I may have to withhold here. Pretty hard to withhold on a 100% company. That does not feel good. This is tricky. Not entirely sure what the correct play is here. I'll have to do some thinking on this for a moment. On the one hand, if I let him sell down, I can get the shares for cheap, but I imagine these other players are going to hop on these shares too. I could redeem shares into the KD, but I can only redeem one of them. And if I price protect, I'm going to be able to massively exceed the limit on this company. But it's not going to be a very good company once these 2 trains rust. It's hard. I think I may be setting myself up for a bankruptcy, but let's go ahead and protect these. Not often you see someone running 100% of a company, but it is satisfying when it happens. So I need to look at my portfolio here and just think about this. The Santa Fe has 2 3 trains, has decent track, so reasonable to stay invested in that. The SoPac, he has decent track as well. He just wasn't running it very efficiently. And the Frisco is kind of the least exciting, but I don't want him to just sit on that full IPO. I think I'm going to have to rely on the rest of the table to deal with that. I'm not going to be able to deplete his treasury. So I think my plan on the Katy is to just run the hell out of this 3 train and hope that the trains slow down a little bit. Be running for 90, but I'm going to be getting 100% of that. So, someone who's running 60 is going to have to run for a little under 180 to equal my revenue from this company. 180 is very achievable, but they'll probably need 2 trains to do it. So Frisco is probably not going to be doing it, at least not in the first operating round, unless he, I guess he'll be able to run his 2 train. It won't rust before he runs. So I don't know. I guess I'm saying that I don't think my revenue or my personal returns from the KD are going to be that much lower than these other players, but I could be wrong. Let's just look at what the other players are doing. Looks like everybody's interested in the Frisco right now, and Misher is just floating his GMO. I don't think I have much left to do in this stock round, so I'm just going to pass. I could sell those Santa Fe shares, but if I do, I want Merlin of Chaos not to have the money um, to price protect them. So it looks like Merlin and Misher are fighting here, which is great. If we can get a little crabs in a bucket action. Um, and meanwhile, I kind of limp along with my Katie. That would be really good. Interesting part of me owning 100% of the Katie is that it's going to be floating up, guaranteed. Nobody can do anything about its stock value. So that's pretty nice. I won't have to worry about, struggling here along the ledge. I'll just be floating in the clouds there. I don't know. This is a very aggressive start for me. I think that this may end in tragedy, but I don't think I've ever been in a position to own 100% of my company in this game. So it's exciting to at least see how it works and why you don't see it very often. Looks like there's a knockdown, drag out fight for this Frisco presidency, but Mischer's going to have to make a decision whether or not he wants to defend his Frisco or if he's going to potentially lose the presidency of the GMO to Merlin of Chaos. Merlin of Chaos can pretty easily get some cash by selling the Santa Fe if he wants to pressure. I think Mischer has put himself in a position where he's not going to be able to maintain both of these presidencies. So Merlin may sell out the ATSF here. And I think that I need to be a little bit worried about that. I may want to preemptively sell the ATSF and then buy a SOPAC. Is the revenue going to be that different? SOPAC and they both are running 2-3 trains. SOPAC's revenue is probably going to be a little bit worse, but I'll also be buying its treasury shares and not taking the net worth bump or drop when the Santa Fe gets sold. Okay. I'll sell 2 shares out of the Santa Fe so that he can't price protect, and I'll plan to put some money into the SOPAC. Who's going to end up with priority into the next stock round? Could be John Flagg, because Merlin has a lot of stock actions potentially left. In which case, investing in the Southern Pacific 2 shares might not be great. I could put a share into the market for Merlin of Chaos to make it a little bit harder and also steal everybody's lunch money in terms of this $10 of arbitrage. I'm just being a little bit of an agent of chaos here. Lots of options, but I think I'll just stick with the Santa Fe. Could sell 1 share and then buy 1 share in the Southern Pacific. Let's do that and split the baby. This does give him the option of price protecting, but I'm assuming he's not going to do that because I think he's pressuring the Frisco in the GMO presidency. It does put him in a little bit of an interesting situation, I think, in terms of having to make a decision here. So he does price protect, and I may have inadvertently saved Mischer there in terms of his pressure for these presidencies. I do hope that we see Merlin sell these Frisco shares. I hope he's not just going to sit on them. I'd love to see him trash that company so that it's less likely it'll be able to run its 2 train, since I can't imagine anybody else is going to run its 2 train. I don't know. Maybe I didn't play that right. This game has a lot more options, I think, than 30 does. The price protection mechanism and the redeeming of shares just kind of really opens up the game. So Mischer probably feels secure in investing in the GMO here. Merlin could kind of allow him to be faked out, I guess, by selling this Santa Fe. But it looks like Mischer, interestingly, is actually going to be going for the Southern Pacific. Don't imagine he's going to be holding that share. Probably just going to be trashing it a single time. Not going to be price protected, so I might lose a little net worth there. That's all right. I made my bed and I'll lay in it. I would love for Mischer to take the last action. Okay, so Merlin does sell out, and is he gonna go for that GMO presidency here? He needs to be careful. If he floats the GMO, then he's going to be giving Misher $2,000 treasuries for very little investment. But looks like for now, um, he's not going to be investing that cash. So Misher is going to have to sell shares if he wants to float that GMO. Otherwise, he's just put $300 into a company that's going to be getting him nothing. Frisco redeeming a share from the market. That's good. He wasn't able to get cash from his company by redeeming a share he holds. So again, he's going to be struggling here to float this GMO. And that's pretty bad for him because he had that big Katy private that he bought in, and then he locked up basically the entire um, revenue from that sale into a company that gets him nothing. So right now, I think I'm pretty happy with this, and my goal is just to end up with a better priority. So hopefully Merlin doesn't drag me into third in priority, but it's looking pretty likely like that's going to happen. Maybe he can engineer um, a way to invest his cash and then change operating order or priority deal. I feel like I was robbed of priority last stock round. I don't know that it ultimately mattered all that much. I ended up with 100% of the KD, and that would not have happened if I had had priority because I would have invested my cash and been unable to price protect. You could probably argue that that would have been better for me. I may have shot myself in the foot with this heavy investment in the KD. Looks like Merlin is just sitting on his cash. He's put himself in a little bit of a rough spot in terms of selling companies with no shares available for him to purchase. But this does mean that Misher may not be able to float the GMO, and Merlin is going to sit on a ton of cash, whereas I'm fully invested, and we may see a little bit of a stall here. I can't imagine that I will be allowed to run these two trains again, but if I do, that may be enough to just rehabilitate my position in this game. Misher just buying his cheaper Frisco shares, fine, and potentially leaving me with priority and a stall. That would be pretty incredible. I have to imagine that we'll see the Frisco buy that 4 train if he is allowed to, well, no, just basically in any scenario. And unfortunately, he's guaranteed to operate before me and everyone else. So he's going to get a run on that 2 train and nobody else will. That hurts me more than anybody else, but he doesn't have the track really to run a 3 and a 4 because I've tokened him out at Topeka. So he's going to have to run down here into Little Rock and stuff, which he'll have the cash to do, but it's going to be an underwhelming run. So yeah, I'm sticking to my guns. I think that this stock round is working out quite nice in the latter half from my position. I am a little bit nervous here about how I'm going to survive this train rush, but if the game slows down a little bit, uh, maybe I'll be okay. So we're into the operating round, and I have priority. I've been coveting priority, and I've somehow ended up with it. Would be a huge mistake not to buy the 4 here. I have to imagine that's what we're going to see. The only way we wouldn't see that, I guess, is if he decided to lay a token somewhere, but I don't even know where that could be. So can't imagine we'll be seeing that. Probably a full pay and then a 4. I mean, if I'm allowed to run these 2s again with 100% of the company, that's pretty inexcusable. Oh man, so he did not buy the 4. Okay. Well, I think I've been playing questionably, but if the other players allow me to get away with playing like an idiot, um, well, then I will potentially win the game. So that's great. Opening up a third city, so my run is going to be even better than it used to be. He's tokening in Oklahoma City, pretty easy to bypass that, so not necessarily going to cut my destination run. Um, I will point out that I'm not the only person running 4 trains here, so it's not like um, I'm dramatically pulling ahead of the other players as a result of that. But I do have the most shares, so if we stall when I have the most shares, I should be able to parlay that to my advantage. But yeah, I wonder if I should be working early to bypass Oklahoma City. He's committed a token there before we know if it's really a worthwhile city, which seems a little short-sighted. So maybe instead of upgrading one of these cities for revenue, I will just upgrade here with a straight. Southern Pacific doesn't have money for a 4 train. Would probably take him full withhold to get the money for that. So I think I'm safe. I don't think I'll be seeing the 4 train rust my 2s here, which is pretty great. Then the question is, if I do get to run my 2s, I think I have to full withhold, right? Is it too greedy to pay and then expect to run them again and pay again? It would be painful to withhold on 10 shares, um, but can I afford not to? I don't know. I suppose I do have the option of heading towards Memphis to take advantage of that river private, but I think that's probably dumb. And do I need to worry about Oklahoma City when I have Little Rock to run through? Maybe not. So I'd like to run out of as many of these 30 value cities as possible. So if I lay a token in Little Rock, I'll be able to run 2 trains out of Springfield. Maybe I don't need to worry all that much about Oklahoma City, and I can just run through Springfield. Okay. So let's not make it all that easy for the Frisco to make it to their destination. I would have liked a gentle here, but it doesn't look like that's in the cards. Okay. So where else am I going to head through from here? I could just do this and then head up through here, and that will slow Frisco a little bit on his destination because he's going to have to do some upgrades instead of laying 2 yellow tracks. I think I'm fine with that. And then let's run all these trains. So my 3 train, I think it's going to be down this way. And then all my 2 trains should be able to hit these 30 value cities. And we'll just ignore that dit. 240. And if I full withhold, I fall back into yellow, which is always nice. But with 10% of the company, 100% of the company, I think I just need to pay out till Kingdom Come here. If I could stay yellow with 10% or 100% of the company, that would be very powerful. But I want to par a second company, so I think I need the cash, and I have priority. Yeah, let's pay it out, and um, we'll see if I get another run of those 3 2 trains, which is insane. I can't believe that was allowed to happen. So as expected, Frisco has to upgrade Little Rock in order to start heading towards his destination. And I would be amazed if I get another run of these 2 trains. I think it was a huge mistake to give me the first one. Yeah, and there it goes. So now my revenue is probably going to be lower than everyone else's by a little bit. This is what I'm talking about, though. Frisco was paying for 120 there with, 60% of the company? Um, and I would have been paying for 90 with a 3 train with 100% of the company. So I would be doing pretty well compared to him. Southern Pacific upgrading for extra revenue. And he's going to be running 2 3 trains. His revenue should be okay. As an investor in this company, I approve. Hopefully he just pays here. I have $110 in my company and not going to need a train until the 6 comes out. So hopefully with this high revenue, I'll be able to float a new company to rehabilitate the Katy. And I think usually your second company feeds your first company. Oh, actually, I guess that's exactly what's going to happen. So we will be seeing that. But usually your first company is your higher value company. In this case, it looks like my second company is going to be floating above um, and probably running ahead of my first company, just because I've had to withhold in half pay. So let's just look at this game state while we pause on the Southern Pacific a little bit. Looking at net worths, I am technically ahead. I think net worth is probably a little bit of a naive metric this early in the game, but it's reassuring to be there. In terms of shares, I have a 3 share lead on the close competitor. I am getting kind of close to my cert limit here. Technically, only 5 shares I can buy. I can always try to get Katie into yellow later in the game. It's just so painful to withhold on 10 shares, but maybe that's what I should be doing long term. So it looks like Southern Pacific ran for 140. Santa Fe is continuing to lay upgrades and has a run of 190, owning 70% of the company. Pretty good. Only 60% relative to me. Looks like he's paying, so everybody is playing pretty greedy and just full paying, it looks like. And since I have priority, I'm going to take full advantage of these stock appreciation and these payouts and have my choice of company. So which company should I be looking at here? I've used all my Katie tokens. Could look towards starting one of these southern companies, Fort Worth or Texas Pacific, to help the Katy towards its destination and also lock down the tokens and hopefully prevent the Katy's run from being cut. So we'll see about that. Let's start heading west here. I guess if I'm going to be heading west, I don't care all that much about the tokens in Dallas and Fort Worth. I could also have headed towards Memphis there and run into the port. I don't think that's really that worth it though. So I got to change up my 3 run, running for just 90. And do I pay that? I've been paying everything else so far, so maybe I'll just continue that trend. That's going to put me over the threshold to float without even selling shares. That seems pretty good. So let's pay it. And we are into the stock round, and I have my pick of the litter, so to speak. I'm really conflicted about which company to float here. There's definitely some good companies in the pool still, and it's a pretty important decision. I have a special place in my heart for the Mopac, but I don't know if it's the best decision in this game. Um, Probably going to struggle to develop track, and it's already been tokened out at Springfield, Kansas City. Could get cut off at the knees by the Cotton. Cotton wouldn't be an unreasonable choice since it has a lot of track developed for it already. It's also looking to build track in the same direction that my Katy is, over here in the west. Would get me a few extra track points. I guess the question is, how am I going to secure its late game run without killing my Katy? But maybe it'd be better for me to have that company than anybody else. The IC is also interesting. May have track laid for it by Santa Fe, or sorry, the Frisco, and then be able to take advantage of it that way. Of course, he is not interested in heading to the same direction as our friend, the Katy. I'm probably least interested in the Fort Worth or Texas Pacific, but potentially interested in Cotton. Oh boy, this is a hard decision to make. I think if I'm going to pick one of these companies, I'll probably pick the IC. So let's go ahead and do that. And is there a way for me to get a leap on shares here? So if I sell the Southern Pacific last, I will be able to potentially skip Merlin of Chaos and get a little bit of a jump on priority from that. Merlin Chaos has a ton of cash because he had to sit on cash last time, but he is going to be able to price protect anything I sell. So can anybody, really. All right, well, we'll sell these shares, and let's see how much cash that gets me. So if I sell Southern Pacific as well, 575, so that's enough for a $90 float, and we'll take the IC. All right, we'll see if that works out for me. I imagine we'll see some price protection here. Would be surprised not to. He has enough cash to price protect and then float a company. It would limit his par values were he to price protect. And I guess he could always get the share into the company if he just lets it fall. But he has a ton of cash. So we see the first price protection, and I assume John Flagg will be doing the same. He has much less cash, so I don't know that we can expect him to be trying to float a company here. May just want to take the stock action. So we do see two price protections. That means that Merlin is going to be a little bit delayed in his float, which I think is to my benefit. And we'll see what Mishra wants to do. So he's going to be redeeming a share, okay, depleting his treasury, also not getting himself any more cash to float the GMO. Is there anything that I'd like to do? I may like to get rid of some of these Frisco shares and hurt his net worth. Looks like we're seeing a bunch of undos all of a sudden. Always a little bit annoying when you're playing live and that happens. 3 players all undone all at once. The obvious play once I have my company floated is to just feed trains into the Katie, which fortunately is going to be operating behind the IC, so I won't even lose the runs on the trains, and then just run the hell out of the Katie and take advantage of that 100% treasury. So we're just kind of redoing actions here. But yeah, I'm basically to just use the IC to breathe life into the Katie. I might even need a third company down the road. We'll see if the other players let me get one, or if I'm able to manufacture a way to start one. I think my goal with this game should be to never do anything other than full pay with the KD again. Looks like ultimately the players decide to price protect just as they did before the undo. So we are back to the position we were in 5 minutes ago, having made no progress. Classic live game. Back to me, and I now have to decide whether or not I want to detour to trash shares. And I think I probably do. Misher is a competitor, pretty close competitor. Um, and I'll probably be going last to second and last in priority no matter what I do, just based on the way the capital is distributed. So I probably do want to trash some shares here and deplete this treasury. He's not going to be able to price protect if I buy them both. Do I have enough cash to float this company if I lose some value with this share getting sold? I do. Actually don't need, I have plenty of wiggle room here. Okay. Mishra's going to have to sell something if he wants to float that GMO. So, okay, let's do a little trashing, I think. And it also potentially put him behind the other companies, which may open him up for a 5 train, but the 5 trains aren't permanent anyways. He's not going to be able to afford a 5 train. Okay. So let's trash him. Deplete that IPO. Imagine we'll see Merlin looking to float his own company here. Be curious to see what he picks. I need to be a little bit careful that I leave myself companies to invest in. I don't want to go on a huge trashing spree and then neglect to have paying shares to buy. I can always redeem a share into the Katie to get a little bit more cash, but I'm just enjoying the idea of having 100% of a company. I guess it's not that bad to redeem a share or two, and it'll open up my cert limit for other shares down the road as well. Maybe should start working on that. So it looks like we're going to see the Fort Worth being parred, and that is one of those companies that can potentially deny the Katy its destination run. I think I've engineered the track in such a manner that I will have multiple opportunities to get there. So maybe not too worried about it, but something to be aware of. John Flagg has price protected another share of the SOPAC. So he is starting to approach my 100% in the Katy in terms of presidency density. Looks like a lot of people are managing to get massive percentages of these companies. You don't always see this in 7D. Sometimes people are not as eager to price protect. So Misher is going to buy a share in the Frisco to presumably prevent me from trashing, but I'm going to trash anyways, and he's going to be unable to price protect or redeem that share. So we will sell that and go back and buy my IPO. This, I think, is working out okay for me. Maybe someone else will join in and buy and sell that share. Looks like he's just going to work on floating the Fort Worth. And technically, even though I wasted a stock action, I'm ahead of him in the float. So I haven't lost priority on him just yet. Of course, we're talking about third or fourth in priority, so it's not the end of the world either way. John Flagg's going to buy that market share of the Frisco, and presumably we'll just be sitting on it. Frisco with a 3 and a 4 is an attractive investment. Um, so not unreasonable to pick that. I'm going to continue floating my IC and still kind of need to decide whether or not I want to redeem a share out of the Katy. Have time to do that later. The only problem is if I don't start doing it early, you can only do it once per stock round. So I may run up against my cert limit and be unable to buy shares later if I don't start redeeming shares now. Since I'm not making the Katy yellow, it may make sense to redeem shares. That way I can not butt up against my cert limit so early. I don't think it makes sense to sell down the IC if I can't invest the cash. It would put me operating behind the Fort Worth, but I want to make sure that the IC is operating ahead of the Katy. So I don't really want to give the other players an opportunity to knock me one share and then put me behind. So we'll buy the IC, and then looks like the Fort Worth is also floated. So I'll probably be going third in priority. And the question is, do I redeem a share in the Katy, give up that third spot? Have plenty of time to do that later. And with only 3 companies left to float, may make sense to try and go at least third in priority. So you have the option of snagging one of those in the next stock round. I probably will not redeem a share. Misher has the opportunity to give me priority here. Would be very generous of him. He's already given me a gift with that delay in the 4-train purchase. And he's been passing. He does have the cash to buy and sell an IC. Don't know that that would really be worth losing second place in priority to do that. Shouldn't really change the game or the train rush, but he's debating doing something here. So it looks like he is going to probably trash the IC. Maybe just a little payback for me trashing his Frisco. Looks like he's reconsidering. So we'll see. He may be just going around trashing everyone one share. But he has given me priority again, which seems like a pretty big mistake. Could potentially loot the IC of all of its treasury, sell it down, and then start a third company with another full treasury. Wow. So I'm given the gift of priority here. Love to see that. Not really sure what that Fort Worth purchase was about. It seems like a strange move. So Frisco, just laying multiple outs from Little Rock, presumably worried that the Ick is going to block him. I think the Ick may not even lay track. You can't really suitcase in this game, not really realistic expectation. I guess I'll lay track. Why not? Um, let the Frisco lay the terrain cost for me. I don't know that I want to give him an obvious upgrade into the destination, though. So maybe I will just lay northeast up to Chicago and not even get a run for myself in the first operating round. Could lay up to the home of the Cotton in the second operating round. It'll cost me a little money, but then I could potentially float the Cotton in the next stock round. All right, so Frisco looks like he full paid, and we're just waiting on the SOPAC now. SOPAC presumably going to be heading east into New Orleans still. So kind of as expected, just heading directly east towards his destination. Maybe the first company we see get to a destination, but won't be doing it in the next operating round. Paying for 140, decent. He owns a high percentage of that company, so we'll have pretty good return from that. And we'll see where Santa Fe wants to head. Looks like he's just upgrading track. Not making any progress towards his destination, really. He is starting the Fort Worth, so probably going to be seeing a double token from the Santa Fe and the Fort Worth in Oklahoma City. I need to avoid a situation where they both double token in Little Rock. But I guess that would hurt the Frisco, and I would still have the out through Oklahoma City potentially. So not necessarily the end of the world. He is half paying on a company he owns 80% of. So that's interesting, especially when he has the second company newly floated. But he did float that pretty low, I believe, the par for the Fort Worth. So maybe he needs to be a little bit more careful with his treasury. He was able to pick up a new Ford train, so his revenue is going to be really high in the next operating round. That'll be pretty good for him. I think I'll just head up towards Memphis, get a run that way, and force the Frisco to lay terrain cost for me if he wants to get to his destination. I think I buy 2 4s here and shuffle one into the Katy. In terms of operating order, Katy's going to be operating ahead of the Ick in the next round. So could potentially buy all the trains into the Katy and then buy one of them out into the Ick, fall back again, use that as my yellow company, and shuffle the rest of the treasury into the Katy that way. Could be an interesting strategy. Okay. And then I can sell down the Ick with no money and just a 3 train. I think that's the move. Buy 2 4s, and we'll plan on shuffling those trains shortly. It should put us pretty close to the 5s. So the Fort Worth could see the 4 and the 5. This is a new player. May see him fall for the idea that a 5 train is permanent and buy the 4 and the 5, not realizing that the 5 is not in fact permanent, which would be a little bit of a noob trap, so to speak. Not to criticize the player, but just a mistake that I've seen new players make when they're first playing 7D, since its train roster is a little different. He is setting up for a run into Oklahoma City. No surprises there. And it's going to be shuffling trains. So buys the last 4, the last 4 probably, and then puts all his cash into the Santa Fe. So maybe taking a similar strategy to me in that he wants to just loot this company and then hopefully sell it down and start a new company. I think that would be a pretty strong strategy to hopefully get a yellow company in this game. I see the yellow strategy as being very strong in 7D. A lot of the players that end up winning, I think, take that strategy. So I think the Katy is going to continue to make its way towards its destination. interested in destinating pretty early here. Do have to worry a little bit about the Southern Pacific and the Frisco conspiring to double token in Little Rock um, with this opening of track here, which would be a little bit unfortunate. They have the cash to do it. Actually, the Frisco will not, so I guess I'm safe for now. But would hate to give the SOPAC a quick run into Little Rock, but looks like it's unavoidable. So, done with track. Still just running for 90 for the time being, paying that out. And I had a plan just a minute ago in terms of these trains. I think I buy both of these trains, and then I'll buy the 3 train out of them with the IC. And then I'll still be able to run 2 trains with the Katy, potentially even get my destination with a 4 train. No, I won't be able to. I need to bypass these cities in order to get my destination with just a 4 train. Okay. Well, still, I think we will leave the IC trainless, allow it to fall back, and just hopefully get a nice yellow company from that. We'll see where the Frisco wants to head. Could cut me off here, but that is actually the reason, well, a reason not to leave the IC with a run, because it may not be able to get a run, depending on how the Frisco wants to play this. So Frisco is creating the track into Houston, but as noted, is $2 shy of a token. So may see him token down there in the next operating round, but not going to cut the Katy's run just yet. And we'll see if the SOPAC player wants to token in Little Rock, in which case we may see the token from Frisco end up in Little Rock, which would be kind of painful after all this track I've developed. But we are also accomplishing our goal of delaying the destination from the Frisco. But regardless, I think I long term is going to have to plan on bypassing both Houston and Little Rock for the Katy. This is interesting. So the SOPAC has opened up a way for the Fort Worth to get a run into Houston and potentially token there as well. So yeah, I think there's going to be a flurry of tokening in the next operating round or 2, which may be a little bit unfortunate for my destination run, but I think it'll all be bypassable, especially if everybody focuses on Little Rock and Houston. Then I still have this left-hand side of the map to run down. So we have a double front here. Santa Fe looks like he's going to be upgrading into Fort Worth and not able to token there just yet, but I imagine we'll be seeing that token shortly. Okay. He also has a token, and he is running both the Fort Worth and the Santa Fe. So I imagine those companies want a double token in cities. So maybe a token in Fort Worth from the Santa Fe, just so he doesn't cut his own runs. And I need to start preparing for these tokens. So who am I looking to bypass? Suppose an upgrade here would leave me a whole lot of options to bypass either Austin or Houston, and I would then just have to bypass Little Rock down the road. I have 3 trains, so should have pretty darn good revenue. And I don't think I need to upgrade cities to improve that revenue, especially since we're only in green. All right, so we'll do that. And got to figure out all my runs here. This will take a second. So 1 run is here. That's only a 20 value city since we're not in brown yet. Right, we're not in brown. Nobody brought a 5. Correct. And of course, by leaving the screen, I've reset my run. That's unfortunate. So I could double tap Austin instead. I think that makes more sense, actually. That's a better run. And then this one will have to hit the $20 city. So 320, I get 100% of that, and of course, am paying that out. And the IC now will be laying up. I guess I don't need to lay towards the Cotton's home, but since I have priority and I'm going to be starting that company, maybe I should. And then can quickly double token in Jackson and Memphis for some pretty decent synergy between those two companies. Could even double token in Baton Rouge and make everybody really upset. Okay, so I think I will pay the money to lay the Cotton's home and not going to orient it, so I have to pay more track. And I'll buy a train out of the Katy for do I want to leave $40 for the token in the company? Am I going to need that money for anything else? It's probably safer to do that. So I will buy that for 201 and set myself up for a quick token. See where Fort Worth tokens. Fortunately, because I've been paying out on the Katy, I'm able to operate ahead of him. So even though he may drop a token to hurt me, not going to be cutting my run in the last operating round at least. He's not quite able to destinate either, and is not going to be able to reach that with a 3 train anyways, but may see him buy that 4 train that he purchased in the Santa Fe in order to reach his destination. Okay, so he does double token in Oklahoma. At least I won't have to worry about that token down south. But that does deny me that western half of the map run, at least for the time being. Originally, I was planning on bypassing Oklahoma City, so may still be able to do that, but I've kind of redirected a lot of my track effort towards this Little Rock route, which may be going the way of the dinosaurs pretty soon. So he's going to buy the last 4. He actually buys it out of the market. And now, because of my monstrous payouts, I am able to just get the company of my choice. And I was saying that I was going to pick the Cotton, but do I still want the Cotton? I think so. It has some track built for it already. Not going to be that hard for it to reach its destination. So I think I will take the Cotton. I don't love this company. I would prefer a company with more tokens, but if it has its track, might as well do it. So let's max par that and sell the IC down 4 slots, which will put it just barely into yellow. I don't think it's going to be that attractive of a company for someone to take over. So why don't we just max par Cotton so far, and we'll see if anybody, if other people can invest their cash before I sell it down, so they don't have a real easy time just taking it over. So we're going to max par Cotton here. Okay. And now this may be a situation where I need to start redeeming these Katy shares into the company. They are quite expensive to start redeeming. And with 2 4 trains, the revenue is going to be pretty high. But I am a little bit worried about my cert limit. I will be selling the IC down, and it will be yellow. So I guess I can rely on that and just keep withholding on the IC, and then run the Cotton and the Katy. So maybe I'll continue staying at 100% of the Katy for now. Merlin is buying GMO, so he's going to pressure Misher into floating that company. Surprised that that has been allowed to sit for so long. I think that's a huge misplay from Misher. Really just totally neutralized his Katy private buy-in by that investment of capital. Frisco being sold, and Misher can price protect if he wants, but it's going to make it hard for him to float that GMO or defend it if he price protects, so may have to let it fall down. I don't know that he cares all that much at this point. He's ledged. Yeah, no reason to price protect this. You can just get it into the company by redeeming it, and then he can keep his president cash for floating the GMO. So probably a mistake to protect here. John Flagg parring the Texas Pacific for the minimum. That's interesting. So running two companies, both of them are not companies that I tend to run very often. I don't really know the strategy there. And I am concerned by the low par. I think that's a problem. So he does price protect the Frisco. That is interesting because Merlin has already declared that he's going to be pressuring the GMO. So I imagine we're going to see that share sold at some point. Okay, I will continue to work on the cotton. And again, I'm going to eventually sell the IC, but I want other players to invest all their capital beforehand so they have to sell shares if they try and take it over. Um, one, because I think that will increase the likelihood of me leaving with priority, and two, because I think it decreases the likelihood of them actually taking the company. And I would like to run this company in yellow, I think. If we only see two companies float and one of them is floating for basically the minimum, we probably will not see an explosive train rush. So I will be pretty safe running that 3 train for an OR or two and withholding on it. So getting a little bit of help in floating that Texas Pacific. Not sure what to make of that. I don't imagine he's trying to help him. I imagine he thinks that's hurting him, but I don't follow the logic. So we'll have to see how that situation develops. Um, he does get a little bit of a leg up in terms of potential priority fight by someone else investing in his shares. But with 3 companies floated and no cross investment in other players' companies, I don't know that I care all that much about priority at this point. I've kind of accomplished a lot of what I plan to accomplish. The only exception to that would be if the IC somehow ended up in brown, but that seems very unlikely, especially since we only have 2 operating rounds. So here we will go and sell down the IC, and I'm going to need another $300. So I actually don't have to sell um, 4 shares. I would be able to sell just 3 of the shares, which again will make it a little bit harder for someone to take over, and it will not put it in yellow. But if I sell 3 shares and I need to buy 3 shares, I'll still be good. So do I need to sell 4 shares? We've established I don't, but should I sell 4 shares? Putting it in yellow may put a big target on its back, so maybe I just sell 3. Um, 3 would still give me more than enough cash to float the company. It keeps the company more expensive, doesn't put it in yellow. Um, I take a little bit of a higher net worth hit, which I'm not too concerned about. And eventually I'm going to be buying these shares back, so maybe I just sell 3. And we continue on our path to floating the cotton. It's probably better that I didn't put the IC into yellow in the stock round. We can move it there in the operating round and then take full advantage of it later. But I don't want to give the other players the ability to exceed their cert limits in this stock round so easily. I would not be opposed to dumping the IC if I needed to. It's not got a very healthy treasury. I would prefer to keep it, but if someone forced my hand, I would be okay with doing it. I'm sure that other players are considering whether or not it's worth taking over the IC. I don't think I put it in such a good position that it's an obvious takeover bid, but I assume people are thinking about it. I'm gonna have to be very strategic with how I play these tokens. I don't have a lot of tokens to go around, and I really don't want to cut the Katie's runs. Um, the other players are going to be doing a good job of that already, I assume. The IC is obviously going to be laying tokens along the East Coast. The Cotton token is the one I need to worry about a little bit. I suppose a token in Fort Worth is not going to hurt me in the Katy because it's already probably tokened out on that west side. So this may work out okay. I'm not opposed to, forgoing the destination run if I have to and keeping the token on the charter. But it's very situational. Um, People say that 1870 is like a very balanced game, and a lot of the different strategies are all kind of equally viable. And I tend to agree with that. I do feel like uh, you know, there's situational validity to almost any action you have in this game. So I'm not beholden to the idea of getting the destination bonus um, by putting the token down. I can hold on to it if I need to. I do need to actually achieve the destination, of course, for this to be relevant, but I think I'll be able to do that in this set of operating rounds. So there we go. He's redeeming that share that he price protected earlier. And I will just continue to float the cotton. And people are sitting on a lot of capital, which makes me think we're going to be seeing some stock trashing here, which is not ideal. I don't love my stocks being trashed, especially when I can't price protect, but it does, I think, increase the likelihood that I'll be leaving in a decent priority. I've already said a few minutes ago that maybe priority isn't as important for me at this point, but I wouldn't turn it down. Looks like Merlin may be um, at least depleting some of the shares of the IC market. Um, Potentially anticipating them being yellow later in the game. I don't know if he's going to make a full-on bid for this company. I think it might be a mistake for him to do that. Um, it's already laid the track for the cotton. I can easily just parasitize that track, but we'll see. So a lot of action going on here. Not entirely sure what we've just seen. Looks like a lot of undos, so I may just pause the commentary while he figures out what he's doing. Looks like Mishra was debating whether or not to price protect the GMO share that was sold and ultimately decided not to, um, which I suppose makes sense because he would struggle to float that company if he had invested his money in that share. And still, the big mystery here is whether Merlin of Chaos is going to make a play for the IC. It's going to be quite expensive for him to do it. He will have to sell a share even to do it. And he's operating behind me in priority guaranteed, unless I go take last action, which is highly, highly unlikely. So he's not going to be able to just get up to 30% of the company and then hope to snag it from me in the next stock round. He's going to have to fully take the presidency here if he wants it. TP able to float ahead of me just because of that kind of random purchase from Merlin. Um, but again, if he wants to take the IC, he's guaranteed to be operating behind me. I probably would not even sell the IC shares if he took them from me, since I'm going to be operating ahead of him. I'm not worried about a dump. Um, and eventually those yellow shares will start to pay. It's going to probably be withholding for a while if he takes it. I don't know that he necessarily needs to take it. He did float the Fort Worth pretty low and has exhausted his treasury, so maybe he's interested in a lower investment presidency to withhold on to rehabilitate his other two companies. Could be seeing that. Mishra thinking long and hard about his action here. Finally does float the GMO. And as a result, I will have the right to float the cotton. Debating whether or not I sell a share here just to avoid it being trashed by the other players. But where am I going to put that cash otherwise? Doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of options, so I may just sit on that. Could buy a Fort Worth share if I sold one. But I think I'll just sit here and let the other players hopefully give me priority. Merlin now has to decide whether or not he's truly going to make a play for the IC. Looks like he's passing. Okay. And am I going to end up last in priority? That would be interesting. I did not see that come in. Looks like no. So now it is much harder for Merlin to steal that company. May end up as a little bit of a split presidency, which, you know what? That company's going to be withholding for quite a few ORs here. So not the end of the world. Eventually, when those shares are yellow, I'll probably regret all these players investing in that company, but hopefully my KD and Cotton will be running hot enough to make that a less bitter pill to swallow. So everybody's bought my shares. It'll be very hard for someone to steal this company now. So I will continue to pass. And looks like I will be not going last in priority at least. Be interesting if everybody starts passing now and just sitting on cash. um, John Flagg investing in paying shares in the Fort Worth. 2 trains in that company will have decent revenue. So kudos to him for that, I guess. Just looking at the game state for a moment because we're kind of slowing down a little bit here. I am still leading in net worth. I have most shares, but John Flagg has managed to catch up a little bit as a result, having to sell the IC down to redistribute my portfolio a little bit. The other 2 players are trailing by a fair amount in terms of shares. Maryland Chaos still has cash to invest, so could potentially catch up. But what shares is he really going to buy? Going to have to buy non-paying shares or the IC off of the IPO potentially. Can only afford one of those, and then potentially at risk for a dump on the IC. I also always forget in this game that you can close companies. The IC is pretty far away from that, but 2 withholds and then maybe some self-trashing could get myself down there a little bit faster. Not unreasonable to try that if I run up against a problem with train liability. It also eliminates some tokens from the map. Okay, so I'm not ending up with priority, but I'm ending up pretty close. And I was able to make it out with 3 company presidencies. In terms of the trains, we are staring down the 5s. And it looks like I will probably be in the position to buy the first one on the cotton. I don't think anybody else has train slots of the old companies. Yeah, everybody's sitting on 2 trains. That's fine. So 5 trains, sometimes permanent, depends on whether players withhold or hurt themselves to take the 12 trains into the game. And they are going to hit more revenue centers than a 4 train, of course, so decent revenue potential. Also open up the brown track for everyone, so potentially can start bypassing tokens if they come out. I'm not too upset to end up with a 5 train. I won't be buying more than one of them, I don't think. Southern Pacific, running trains, still sitting on a token. Would be interesting to see him lay that on Fort Worth. Don't imagine we'll see that, but would be interesting. And because the Frisco did not token, it doesn't matter where the SOPAC tokens, because I will not have my runs cut. So Frisco continuing to do me favors. And the IC, interestingly, is going to be able to token in Memphis, which would potentially prevent this attempted upgrade from the Frisco player from taking advantage of this track I'm laying. So I'm not a huge fan of some of the decisions being made by the Frisco in this game. I think there's been some missed opportunities to hurt me and the other players. Southern Pacific laying towards the Texas Pacific's home tile, presumably helping him get a run into this track down here. So could see the Texas Pacific token in Houston, but again, we've already started bypassing Houston, so not the end of the world by any means. Running 3 trains for 170, and so far I'm liking what I'm seeing in this operating round. Assume we'll be seeing a full pay with him controlling 90% of that revenue. He does. And we should be moving on to the Santa Fe very shortly here. Not entirely sure what he's debating here. I will look at the market for a second and just note that the KD has been gradually floating its way up the market as a result of me owning 100% of it. So I think we started maybe in this column here when we looked at it, and we are gradually making our way to the roof. So maybe it's a good idea to allow myself to float up one more time and then start redeeming these shares. I do have to be a little bit careful that I don't start redeeming these shares when they're so expensive, or else I'll never be able to redeem them. I think that's something I overlooked before in my consideration of when to do that. So maybe that was a mistake, because it's going to get very expensive to redeem these shares soon, $140 a piece in the next stock round. And the KD has $300. So need to make sure I have at least $140 in the company to redeem one of these shares. Santa Fe is up, and assume we're being see upgrade on Fort Worth and a quick token there. It's probably the safest move. But despite having the run, he is still not going to have the train for his destination. He may be able to quickly pick up the 5 train if he does that, though. Um, he probably would have to half pay if he drops this token to buy the 5. So may see him destinate quickly there. That would be pretty interesting. And then that would make the train limit such that I would not be able to buy a 5 train. Because that would be an interesting play, is to run my 2-4 trains and either half pay or full withhold to pick up a 5 train and get my destination, which I could meet currently with the existing track. I wouldn't have to bypass Houston to do it. Interestingly, though, he is not prioritizing heading over there and instead is going to be looking to link up in Little Rock potentially. Not sure what that's about. I think it would probably be strictly better to head to Fort Worth and just secure his run. But clearly he's considering his options here. Running for 220 and also full paying it. I believe I'm correct in that the train limit is 3 currently. So we are on the 5s and we're on the 4s and the train limit is 3, correct. So that is an interesting idea. Nope, okay, so he does buy the 5. Okay, but he was unable to secure his destination run. So I have brown track available, and I think I just need to continue heading towards the offboard. So I'd love to lay that upgrade, but because it's semi-restrictive, I think I cannot. That's all right. I do want to make sure that if I lay this track here, I don't just immediately get blocked with a casual green upgrade. I think I probably have enough track points to bypass that still, but it would be a little bit unfortunate. Okay, well, we'll see if the other players want to play hardball or not. And then why don't we just casually block the Frisco somewhere? Or alternatively, I could start working on bypassing. Yeah, let's do this. That'll annoy the Fort Worth a little bit. Okay, so we have all of our 4 trains now, and it looks like there was a token in Oklahoma City that is cutting my run, but I don't think it impacts the fact that I can hit 4 tracks or 4 cities. So we'll do that, and we are in brown now, so I think I would like to hit this offboard instead of Kansas City. 250, we'll pay that. Cotton, and I'm going to start heading my way. Suppose I could start making my way towards my destination, but I'm going to let the Frisco lay that track. I'm going to help my other company first. And I can buy a 5 train, and then I think I'll buy a train out of the Katy and run the better train with the Katy to hit my destination in the next operating round. Okay, so we'll buy a 5, and then I'll leave some money in this company. This is a company that I do want to run well, so let's just give Katy a little bit of extra money, potentially for a 6. So I'm going to want another $307 in there, which I think is fine to do. So we'll buy this for 308. So I have $1 in the company after I buy my train. And now I guess I didn't need it. I could have done that for $1 less. That's fine. I don't imagine that being a problem. So now I've got cash in all my companies, and the Cotton is going to have that 5 train bought up against operating order probably. Okay, looks good. And by buying that train, I'll be able to run my destination run in the next OR. I was forgetting that the GMO has now entered the game, so I need to be a little bit careful here that he doesn't mess with my track too much. They could potentially look to bypass my tokens by just upgrading here, but it's going to take him an extra OR to do it. an X upgrade here would be viable, and I should be able to block that without too much difficulty. Something to pay attention to. I'm not targeting Misher specifically. I just have the opportunity to cut his runs more easily than the other players. And if he is wasting track points trying to overcome my blockade, he is not someone that's going to be upgrading down here to cut my run on the Katie. I think ultimately I'm going to have to bypass or plan to bypass both Austin and Houston. I can run into Austin for the short term, but I fear 2 tokens coming out there at some point in the game. GMO buying a train across from the Frisco, it looks like, and the Fort Worth is now up. This is a player that could potentially lay some bad track for me here. Um, but we'll see if he's motivated to do that. I did hurt him up here, so he may be looking to return the favor, but alternatively, he may just be looking to bypass that blockade. So it could go either way, really. Hard to predict the psychology of players you never played with before. Got to be a little bit worried about just pissing people off for no reason, but um, on the other hand, you got to play cutthroat. So it looks like my casual master plan worked out here. And instead of Fort Worth blocking me down here, he's operating up here to try and get his destination. I don't think it's the wrong play from him, but I do think it is helpful to me. Texas Pacific going to be laying his home, and then could see a token quickly in Houston here, but I've kind of set up for that eventuality by already preparing to bypass Houston. He has also laid himself track that is going to prevent him from getting a token in Little Rock, at least in this operating round. See if he wants to lay the train cost. Interesting. I don't know what that track is for. Is he hoping to lay a token in Austin? No, because he does lay that Houston token. Okay. So he will be reaching his destination with both companies in the next operating round, which is going to be a lot of extra cash for him, so that's fine. He may be looking to withhold on this Texas Pacific into yellow, though, so maybe not able to take advantage of that in the stock round in terms of extra cash. So it looks like my Katie is going to be destinating, which I'm pretty happy about. And I don't think there's really anything anybody can do about it. Santa Fe is not going to be able to block me. Frisco, in theory, could, but I think the Frisco is still motivated to get his destination run, so I'm expecting him to lay this track here. Maybe I'm just being paranoid. If I was playing this game, I would be laser focused on this tile. Sorry, that doesn't make sense. I am playing this game. If I was one of the opponents and I saw that the net worth leader was so dependent on this tile to destinate, I would be paying attention to that, but I don't know if the other players think that way. He's got to decide here if he wants to buy a 5 or if he wants to shuffle trains. I think that these players should be trying to push trains since I'm sitting on a lonely 3 in the IC. So he's given money to the SOPAC. Okay. And for my action, I think I actually don't have access to green track. That is interesting. Okay. Did not anticipate that happening. And I am tokened out at Houston, so it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for me to lay towards Baton Rouge. But that said, I could potentially still do that. And when he lays Baton Rouge, hope to take advantage of that terrain cost that he has paid. The IC is really not heading southwest, but eventually the Cotton would like to get over there. So I don't know that that track is going to help my companies very much. Can't upgrade either of these cities, so I think my only option is either to bypass Memphis, which I'm really not motivated to do, or to lay this track. So why don't we do that? I could potentially do this, which would make it a little bit annoying for the other players to get into New Orleans. That might be a fun move. Give them a little bit of a more expensive run into New Orleans. Yeah, let's do that. And then I just run my train and I'll be withholding here. Okay. And we're into the next operating round, last operating round of this set. And we'll see what I can do with the Katy in terms of getting my runs. I need to be a little bit careful about playing so nasty with the track because I am dependent on this upgrade here. Um, so maybe I should not have laid that track down south because that's going to disincentivize the Southern Pacific from heading towards its destination and may put it over the edge towards just playing spiteful and blocking me on the Katy. I don't know. I always like playing nasty with track, so that's just a character flaw of mine, I guess. So it looks like he's going to be upgrading Kansas City, which I'm all for. Doesn't do anything to block my runs and really just improves them. Um, Upgrading track early in the operating round is just going to allow other players to run that same bonus that you are. Not the wrong decision by any means to upgrade to Brown, but um, this is a better upgrade, for instance, because nobody's going to be running through there. So it's going to be harder for them to take advantage of the extra revenue from that upgrade. I'm a little bit surprised that he's going to be doing that instead of just heading towards New Orleans, but um, I guess we'll continue to see him make gradual progress in that direction. Looks like he buys a 5, so we're sitting on the 6s now. Would love for the Ick to get another run of this 6. I want it to be closer to a permanent train by withholding before we see that train rust. But it looks like the GMO may be in a position to bring that 6 out, which is not going to be the end of the world. I'll have enough trains to shuffle around, but um, it's looking more likely that I'll probably close that Ick, which is not going to be great for my cert limit, obviously. Santa Fe really should be upgrading Fort Worth and achieving his destination. I'm a little bit surprised we haven't seen that already, um, but hasn't been motivated to do it, it looks like. But I think there's probably no better play at this point than doing that. And then that raises the question of where we'll see that token end up. So interestingly, he's going to lay track for the Fort Worth and achieve the destination on that company, not his better company. Fort Worth and he are looking to pressure this token or this track here and potentially, I guess, cut runs at Little Rock. But I don't think he has enough tokens to do that. He would have to take his Fort Worth token onto the charter to double token there. Doesn't mean that someone couldn't help him, but I don't think he's going to be able to achieve it by himself. So he's rethinking that a little bit and makes the more obvious play of upgrading Fort Worth. Yeah. Okay. And doesn't have the money for the tokens, so won't see that, but really no rush to token there anyways. I think this was the objectively better play, upgrading Fort Worth and getting his destination run. He can still get the destination run on the Fort Worth later. Looks like he's really struggling with this, though. It seems like an obvious decision to me, but obviously he has his unique way of thinking about the game and his own priorities. All right, so he does eventually upgrade Fort Worth and pays it out. He actually half pays it, and I thought that he would have made his destination there. Um, but it actually looks like with a 5 train, he's not quite ready. He needs to bypass one of these cities, so he needs a 6 train. That is something I did not expect. Kind of bad for him. So now I'm able to get this upgrade. Eventually, I anticipate having to upgrade past Austin, but there's no guarantee that that's the case. And my route has been cut, but fortunately, they have upgraded Kansas City and Houston, so I'm still able to get decent revenue with that 4 train, pay that out. And do I want the 6 train? I'll be rusting my own 3, but I think that I'll probably be seeing that 3 rust before it runs anyways. So maybe I'll be buying the 6 train. And that will let me run 2 trains with the Cotton. Cotton's run is going to be pretty poor because it's running right after this. But yeah, maybe I'll do that. I don't really care about the Ick that much. Okay, we'll buy 6 trains, permanent train. Can never turn your nose up to that. And since we have it, let's take advantage of this map doubling of my destination because I probably will not have the cash in the Katy to lay that track later or lay that token later. I do have to be cautious here that I have left myself without enough money to redeem a share. Um, I can shuffle trains later, so maybe I'll see myself do that. All right, so we're running the 6 train from my destination to, or from my home to my destination. Only need a 5 train for that, but it's a little inefficient, but what are you going to do? And then running my 4 train here, um, and 360, I will pay that out. Cotton's up. Cotton now has access to um, green cities, and I don't think I want to upgrade my home because that will let people just run through it. So maybe we upgrade Jackson. Could upgrade here. Yeah, this is a tricky one. Definitely don't want to upgrade my home and just let everybody run through there. Want to secure that token with the IC, I think. Make them work for it. Could upgrade Jackson and token there, but it doesn't actually improve my run. I'm going to be running only one of these trains, it looks like. So that is a little bit unfortunate. Very inefficient play from myself. I could upgrade Jackson, then hope to get into Little Rock in the future in an effort to get my destination. But I'm imagining that Little Rock is going to be a heavy token target. All right, let's upgrade in token in Jackson. I think that's something that makes sense to do. So we will just run a 5 train for a very poor revenue. Submit that, pay it out, and we are into other players' operations. So I think the Katie worked out really nice for me there, but the other company, the Cotton, maybe not so much. GMO is laying parallel track to my 2 companies, probably assumes that I'm not going to allow him to just easily upgrade into there. Maybe hoping that the Frisco can upgrade this track and then GMO upgrades this track to just run through Memphis. But that IC company has a token that will have something to say about that. Unfortunately, if the IC closes, which it's looking more likely, that token will go away and then they'll be able to take advantage of that track. But we'll see how that works out. Fort Worth achieving his destination, and he does have a train to actually run that, and he's also going to be setting up for this here. I need to find a way to block that. I definitely do not want them to take advantage of all this track that I've laid with the Katie. And he should be getting a destination run here. He's withholding, so he's now yellow. But I've managed to secure a permanent train in my lead company, the Katie, so it will never fall back and should just be able to run for the rest of the game for decent revenue. And again, I'm getting 100% of that, so I just need to use my other 2 companies to funnel trains and make sure it has good runs throughout the game. Fort Worth achieving its destination, and I assume it's going to be paying out. It withheld the other one, so it doesn't really need the cash, I don't think. I guess if it withholds, maybe it can afford a 6 train and run a 4 and a 6 in that company, which would definitely accelerate the train rush a little bit. I'm thinking that this IC is going to have to close. The question is, can I close it before it needs to fall on an expensive permanent train? Might be a tall order. I definitely don't want to close it when it has a permanent train in it. Would love to close it with just a 4 train. I don't know if that's going to be possible. I suppose I have the 5 train in the Cotton that I could close it with. Fort Worth really debating whether it wants to keep this token or put it on the off board. It's not a trivial decision. I just briefly discussed keeping the token in the Katie, so I definitely understand why he's thinking about it. I imagine these players are seeing some pretty monstrous runs develop and thinking about how they're going to be able to cut them. Let's just look at the game state here. In terms of net worth, I am off to a pretty substantial lead here. I don't think I have that much train liability, especially if I'm able to close the IC. I'm at my cert limit. Not actually, no, because the IC is yellow. I'm not at my cert limit, so that's good for me. And In terms of tokens left, the IC has a token, but that company might be closing. Santa Fe, Southern Pacific, GMO, and Frisco all have tokens. So plenty of tokens to be annoying with. And looks like the Fort Worth has not taken a token for itself. So it's just running for 170 to its destination. Not the most exciting. And then Texas Pacific is trainless, similar to my IC, which is good that I'm not the only one falling by trainless. And I don't care that much about the IC. I only have 30% of that presidency, as opposed to John, who has 50% of this presidency. He's got a lot of cash, but his track is a little bit limited as a result of my play down here. Cotton is going to have to lay some expensive track for itself in order to get to its destination. Really no guarantee it does that. I suppose it could upgrade Jackson and hope to get into Little Rock and to its destination that way. The problem is going to be that I'm expecting tokens in Little Rock. So I may need to plan to bypass Little Rock. Potentially even bypass it with the Katy as well. Okay. I think I can potentially achieve a bypass of Little Rock and a blockade of this attempted joining of the track with some upgrades on this tile. So that may be a thing to prioritize in the next operating round is that tile. TP falling back, laying a DIT upgrade, maybe hoping to block someone joining that track eventually. Not entirely sure. He buys the 6, so I think we are sitting on one more 6 here. I have the cash to emergency buy it actually, but I don't know if that's really worthwhile. And then the question becomes, do I upgrade in token here, or do I do something else? I'm not going to run it either way, and I think it's looking more and more likely I'm going to be closing this company. So I don't know that I necessarily want to pay cash because I'm going to have to shuffle a train into this company. And I'd rather have that cash in the cotton than the IC. So if I were to upgrade here and just do something annoying like that, I could potentially block even without that cotton upgrade and make it harder for these two companies to reach their destination. Yeah, I don't know that I care about the IC destination. I'd probably care more about the cotton destination. So let's make the cotton a little bit better and just continue to fall back on the IC. IC will buy this for $80. And we're just going to focus on trying to get the IC to close. Okay, into the stock round. And in terms of shares to buy, I suppose I could have bought that train out of the Katy and shuffled some cash into Katy to start redeeming shares. It's looking unlikely that the Katy's ever going to be able to redeem these shares. I think I waited too long. It's funny, I mentioned it multiple times about how I should start redeeming shares, and I just never did it. In terms of companies to buy, all the lead companies have no shares available. My cotton, I am train locked, or not train locked, share locked on. And the TP is yellow and has a 6 train. So I think there's a pretty clear best investment here. Just looking at the track, the TP has the token here. Fort Worth has already reached its destination. So either of those companies is a potential. But it looks like the Fort Worth is more likely to withhold since it has no permanent train and is close to 6 train money. So let's buy the TP. Also happens to be a little bit cheaper. And we'll just continue to focus on yellow shares until there's none left to buy. Not buying any more of these IC shares though, that's for sure. I also could have floated the Mopac. Maybe that's something I should have considered. I would have to sell some shares or redeem a share in the cotton to do that. So probably not the best idea. The reason I say that is because the Mopac's track I think is going to be very kind of limited. So even though it has a treasury and can push trains, those shares may end up being kind of an albatross around your neck if you float that company so late in the game. I'll let somebody else do that. I don't think I have an interest in floating a fourth company, particularly as I'm desperately trying to close my third company. I'd rather just hoover up these yellow shares that are going to be paying. We see a share of the GMO going. GMO, not going to have good track for a while. So I think that's an expensive share that probably there's better shares available. John Flagg somehow has no cash going into this stock round. Um, Not entirely sure how that happened. Um, I guess it's because he emergency bought that six into the Pacific, the Texas Pacific. I suppose I could have done the same with the IC, but I think I've been so kind of um, locked on the idea of closing the IC, I didn't even consider it. That would have been a reasonable option. Looks like there's a little bit more undoing action going on. A lot of that in this game, which is kind of annoying. Um, so Merlin is going back for the yellow shares, which makes a lot more sense than buying those GMO shares. And then John, he's going to have to either redeem a share for himself or find a way to sell shares for cash because he otherwise is going to be sitting idle in this stock round. No point in having a yellow company if you're not able to exceed your cert limit, which he is not looking like he will be able to. Okay, so John indeed selling shares in order to afford paying shares. Of course, I am not price protecting the IC, and the IC is closer to closing courtesy of John there. So if I sell a share and then we fall back 3 times, I am still 1 share above the closure, unfortunately. So I need to buy and sell a share of this IC in order to dump myself even further, because then um, as long as that 8 train doesn't come out, it will fall back and close. So this will be 1, um, 2 sells, and then 3 fallbacks. I'll close it in the operating round. If I buy more shares, I'll actually close back. I'll close faster. So that's worth doing. All the TP shares have gone, so I will buy the Fort Worth. And I will eventually be buying and selling a bunch of these IC shares to try and get it to close immediately. In theory, I could buy 3 shares, some of them from the IPO, sell it 3 times, which would drop me to 20, and then 2 fallbacks would actually close the company. I just need to make sure that that 8 train doesn't come back before it closes. If one of these other players could sell a share for me, that would be really, really helpful. But I don't imagine we're going to see that. John only did that because he didn't have the cash to buy shares otherwise. And I suppose if these yellow shares go away, I should redeem a share of the cotton and then buy a share um, in order to protect these shares and prevent other people from buying into my companies. So interesting that he is still going for this GMO. He did the same thing in the last go around where he went for the GMO and then ended up undoing it and going for the TP instead. Looks like he's really not prioritizing these yellow shares. Misher could go back and buy that Fort Worth. Sorry, I should not have criticized Merlin for forgoing the yellow shares. He can't buy that Fort Worth. We'll see if Misher goes for it or not. He probably will because he can't buy that GMO. So unfortunately, it looks like I probably will not end up with another share of the Fort Worth. Fort Worth should be a safe purchase since there's really no chance of it being dumped with a non-permanent train based on the operating order here. Merlin or Misher, for some reason, passing on shares. I'll be happy to buy that Fort Worth. No problem at all. Thank you, sir. And we'll see what the other players are buying. I'll pick up a GMO, at least one of them. And then I'll go back and start doing my shenanigans with the cotton and with the IC. I like my odds of being able to close this IC. I think for sure that last 6 train is going to come out in the first operating round, but I am not anticipating that 8 train. I suppose it's possible. 2 players are sitting at close to $600. So with a full withhold, very conceivable that they could have enough money for the 8 train. I really need that IC to close before it happens. It can close in the operating round that the A train is bought, but it cannot close in any operating round after that. And I also need to be careful that I don't end up giving away the IC with a permanent train if I get it close to closing, but then it stays brown and someone just snipes it from me because I don't have priority. So that is the fear. Um, okay, no more yellow shares to buy. So I will redeem a share here and then open myself up to buying another cotton share. And then I'll go back for those GMO shares, or at least one of them. And the idea here with these redemptions is just to deny paying shares to other players, um, rather than it is to give myself cash in the stock round. I'm going to lose priority for sure here. Let me just look at this closure theory again. So if I sell this 3 times, I'll end up here, fall back in the first operating round for sure, and then hopefully nobody buys that A train in the first operating round. I fall back again and I'm good. So I think that's what I have to hope for here. Hurts my net worth to buy these shares, but it's really a small price to pay. And the alternative is to actually run the IC as a viable company. I think that's probably not worthwhile. I have a bunch of shares here. I'm well over my cert limit, so I don't know that I need them. And the track for the IC is probably not going to be very good. I suppose we really should be looking at the Fort Worth here and seeing if it has the capability of running for 220, in which case it can bring out the 8. So the Fort Worth with a 4 train is going to be running for 100 right here. And then 3 more companies is 190. So if a couple of those cities upgrade, should have really no trouble at all running for enough, unfortunately. We said 220, so it would actually need all 3 of these cities to be upgraded. So it's possible that it will not have the ability to buy that 8 train no matter what, because I'm assuming that the GMO is going to withhold for a 6. So very conceivable that we'll see the A train not come out here, in which case the IC should be successfully closed. Game is really starting to slow down here. Players are taking a long time to hit the pass button. I think my strategy for the rest of the stock round is to just max out on shares, buy my cotton, buy the GMO, and then trash my IC into closer to closure. So I'll buy my cotton first. Anticipate redeeming some more of these shares in the future, probably. I'll feel pretty confident holding 2 shares in the GMO. Again, because of the operating order from the Frisco, his other company, seems pretty unlikely that that'll be a dump candidate. And even though it's not the best company, eventually these 2 companies are going to bypass my blockade between the cotton and the IC. Finally, it looks like everybody's auto passing, so I'll just continue buying shares here. This is going to put me last in priority. So again, if this IC does not close, which I think we've done enough math now to hopefully ensure I do run the risk of losing a permanent train by trying to close it. And the reason I say that if it's not clear is because I'll end up, 1 slot away from the black closure in brown, and someone will buy up like 6 shares, which will all be on the market because I've trashed it, and steal that company with its shiny new 8 or 10 train, which would be quite painful. Probably a great way to lose the game. But I feel confident that we're going to pull this off. Buying my last GMO. And now we're just left to do our shenanigans with the IC. So I'll buy this market share everybody has graciously left me. Buy the IPO. Looks like everybody's off auto passing. And actually, because it's green, I can actually sell it down further than I thought. So if I sell it down 5 times, which is the max, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I can just close it right away. So I better just do that. I think that makes the most sense. and it should be closing here. Okay, so I don't even know what I was worried about. That was easy. All right, and somehow I'm now above my cert limit, so that may have been a mistake. I think I'm going to not do that and sell down 4 shares so it falls back, and that way I can exceed my cert limit. That may just cause someone else to sell it. So I misplayed that a little bit. I didn't realize that that was going to put me above my cert limit. But that may trigger someone else to sell it down to put me over my cert limit, which would be unfortunate. So I'm safe from ever having to run this IC. Unless they steal the presidency, which would be stupid. That would be funny. I didn't anticipate that. But sure, we'll see. If anybody wants to try and rehabilitate the IC, be my guest. That seems like a real big mistake. I'm a little bit confused why I was 2 shares over my cert limit if I close the IC there. I can see why I'd be 1 over, but does closing a company decrease the cert limit by 2 shares? Or maybe I was just misreading that. I'm not clear about that. But regardless, I want to make sure I'm exceeding my cert limit at the end of the stock round, so I don't want to close the company too early if I didn't have to. So it's funny, they may force me to price protect here. And actually, they closed the company for me. So unfortunately, I do end up 2 shares over my cert limit, which is rather unfortunate. Okay, so maybe I misplayed that a little bit. I haven't found myself in that situation before. So I will have to sell shares here. And which shares will I be selling? Probably the GMO would be my guess. Don't want to sell yellow shares, and GMO is not really that good. He is not going to be able to price protect that, so I will do that. Okay. So I did save myself from the ick, but the other player was able to hurt me a little bit. And my net worth has actually dropped pretty substantially in this stock round. I think I was at above 3,100 as a result of having to buy shares from the IPO and then sell them for a loss. So painful. And that actually puts me tied for shares with Merlin of Chaos, whereas before I was pretty good. All right, well, we'll see how things play out. I think it was the right move to eliminate that train liability. Cotton with just a 5 train is a little bit of a liability here, I would say. But really, who's going to bring out the 12? These players are going to struggle to buy the last 6 in the first 8. And then the MP is the only company left unfloated. It's going to take a lot of withholds to bring out the 12s. So Cotton might be safe with the 5. 5 trains might be pretty good here. Doesn't look like any player is running multiple permanent trains in a single company. So my 4 and 6 is reasonable on the Acadie. All right, looks like we'll be passing into the operating round, and we'll see how all these shenanigans play out. I think in retrospect, I wish that I had played that a little bit differently and maybe not allowed them to close the ick in the stock round. But hindsight's 2020. So I'm curious a little bit how he was able to lay this track. I think that was just the upgrade that I had laid the gentle curve in the last stock round. I'm getting a little bit confused. Game's running long, so it was a perfectly valid upgrade. And he is telegraphing that he's trying to get into Memphis. Now that Memphis is no longer able to be tokened by the IC, that's reasonable. But I think I've done enough to hurt his destination run. I don't need to focus on that anymore. And the SOPAC is upgrading Fort Worth. Is he going to token in Fort Worth? That would be pretty bad news for the Santa Fe. Looks like for now he's going to be not doing that. We'll see where that token ends up. I still need to be a little bit worried about this Little Rock situation, I think. And I may need to block this upgrade from the Santa Fe and the Fort Worth player. So he's running for 190. Okay. And now it's to the Katy. So Katy can upgrade for revenue, of course. But I think, again, this scares me a little bit. I don't like having this tile available to them. So, I have this upgrade available. That doesn't really block them long term. This would, I think, forever prevent them from running into Little Rock from that destination. Does allow them to get into Austin, but they've already got access to that. So let's do this. And then again, eventually I'm worried about these tracks down here being blocked. So I'll continue my trend of allowing other people to upgrade my cities for me. And let's get a nice 6-run here. So 6-run is going to be down this way, like so, hitting my destination. And then my 4-run from Topeka is going to be a little bit anemic. Going to have to hit this DIT for max revenue. But 360, nothing to sneeze at, especially when you're getting 100% of it. Pay that out. Pay it out all day. And we'll see where this Santa Fe player wants to head. I may regret kind of laying track here if I am blocked at Little Rock, which will prevent me from, bypassing Little Rock if this gets upgraded as well. So there's a lot of liabilities to my run. I got to start finding a way to take care of that. But this player, I don't understand this upgrade. He already upgraded to all. He already had access to all this track, so I don't know what that upgrade gets him. And I think he was destinating no matter what at this point. I suppose he's able to bypass Fort Worth, so that's why he was heading there. Okay. Whatever. Can't read the table 100%. So he will hit his destination, but of course I was able to hit my destination first and was able to take advantage of the cash influx in the stock round, whereas he's just going to have to sit on that cash for a couple operating rounds. Let's look at the bank here. So $8,500 in the bank. We're going to be seeing the 8s come out, rusting the 4s, reducing people's revenue, injecting a little bit of cash into the bank. So unfortunately, I think this game has a fair amount of life left in it, which is going to be a little bit slow. So in terms of reaching my destination, this is an obvious upgrade here. And with a 5 train, no trouble reaching my destination. And I could immediately then drop a token on my destination. The other option is this upgrade here, but I think that would be too many revenue centers. No, actually, it's exactly enough. So why don't we do that and then destinate. This is putting all my eggs in that Little Rock basket, but it also combines my 2 companies in the sense that now I can get more track points to defend my runs. So we'll submit that. My run has increased pretty well. We'll pay it out. And I am interested in tokening here. And then let's continue to hit our destination. Only going to run a 4 train. And how's that only 180? I guess it's because I'm hitting a $20 city as my home. So it's really not that great of a run, but still, we'll pay that out. And now both my companies have hit their destinations, and the runs for both are a little bit tenuous. So I need to work on just securing all that. But I do think hitting your destination fairly early is important in terms of just racking up your higher revenues for the rest of the game. I may want to emergency buy the Cotton's train into the Katy, run 2 trains into the Katy, and then force buy a better permanent train in the Cotton. That may be the play, just to kind of accelerate things and get a little bit of a better train for myself. I think I can run an 8 train in the Cotton without too much difficulty. So I'm already running 5 trains, and then I can link up down here into the southeast through Mobile. So I think that's reasonable. Fort Worth is upgrading Oklahoma City, okay. And he's withholding, so he'll pick up an 8. That's that 8 train buy that I think I was worried about in the. Actually, he's $20 short. Remember, we said we needed all 3 of these cities to be upgraded for him to be able to do it. So, in fact, he is unable. Texas Pacific should be able to. Actually, still cannot destinate because of my unfriendly track here, but should be able to start linking up into the east a little bit. So I think my priority with both my companies now is making sure that I can get past Little Rock, and then eventually making sure I can get past Austin. Texas Pacific upgrading Dallas. That's nice. That's another way for me to run into Fort Worth with an upgrade here. And he's running for 230, withholds it just to stay yellow, presumably. So we're into the second operating round. Just looking at the spreadsheet here. I ran for by far the most, and my net worth is still easily eclipsing the other players. I have very little train liability. I think I'm set up to win this game. Still plenty of life left, but it's looking pretty good. He's upgrading my home for me. Pretty predictable that he would be doing that. So all these tracks that he's laid, and finally he's going to be bypassing my blockade, but he still is unable to destinate. And that's that token in Little Rock that I've been fearing. Pretty clear that that was coming, and I should be able to bypass it with my track points, but could very well see the Southern Pacific drop a token in Little Rock just to be spiteful. Fortunately, because he upgraded my home and then tokened over here, he has left the Katy with options for its trains, but it's probably going to lose its destination run here just temporarily, would be my guess. I think I've built up enough of a lead that it doesn't matter. And Katy, still running 2 trains because that 8 train still has not come out. Okay. Probably going to see that on the Fort Worth this turn. Looks like other people's are preparing for permanent trains, so I need to make sure I don't fall behind on the train rush and pick up one of these cheaper perms. And I think I'll do that with the Cotton. I want to end up with an 8 so I can run a 6 and an 8. And I just need the Katy to continue running to the right on the market. I don't think we're going to be hitting the end of the market, so that's fine. I don't need to withhold on the Katy ever. More upgrades on Dallas here. So that will help my run if I don't get tokened out at Little Rock, which could very well happen. Where is this token going to end up? He's just passing it for now. Running for 220. Still not seeing an 8 train come out, so I'll get one more run out of this 4 train probably. And here's where I need to start with the Katy looking to bypass Little Rock, because that track is not going to be available to me for much longer. So I think I set up for that bypass here. And then with the Cotton, I can potentially start laying into Springfield. So I'll run my 2 trains, and do I have a better run now? I bet I do, now that everything's been upgraded. So We still have to hit Kansas City and Little Rock, but then I see, because this is not upgraded, I still can't run into Dallas. Okay, so let's reset that. And the 4 train, yeah, I think I'm still running the optimal route, unfortunately. So we'll still pay that out. And actually, I was forgetting that because that 4 train is still there, I'm not able to buy the train out of the cotton. So I'm going to have to do that in the next operating round, which may mean that I miss it on the 8s, depending on what exactly happens here. I think everybody's train locked except for that Fort Worth, though. So maybe I won't miss that on the 8s. It's looking like Merlin of Chaos is setting up for a pretty monstrous late game um, with all these withholds. I am invested in the Fort Worth, but otherwise not invested in his company at all. And he's withholding on a company he owns 90% of the revenue for. So that's probably not going to pay off for him. ATSF is laying track out of Austin, I guess potentially setting up to token in Austin and block my KD destination run. Not entirely sure. It's going to waste the token in Fort Worth. Really wasn't under any pressure there, I don't think. So running for 440, which is pretty good. Could withhold that and get pretty close to permanent drain money. Looks like he's half paying. Yep. All right. So the cotton now is going to look to ensure that it is saving the Katy from the Little Rock blockade. And let's go ahead and lay some other track as well. So I'm just thinking here what could potentially be useful in the future. I think we just got to give more outs. Let's lay a gentle here. That way, if this track is unavailable to upgrade, I can potentially upgrade here for the Katy to run through Dallas as well. Although, is the Katy really going to be running through Dallas when it's tokened out at Fort Worth now? Probably not. Okay. So running for 220, and I think we pay that out. And we're not buying any trains here. No, because we're going to eventually force buy a train in that company. Okay. GMO, probably going to start heading up north here, but actually can't afford the train cost. That's brutal. I haven't even been actively blocking him this set of operating rounds, but he's still struggling here. Upgrading Little Rock, can't token there, but I imagine we're going to be seeing him try shortly because I've been pissing him off all game, so he's going to be looking to blockade that. And instead, upgrading his home, and should have decent runs for himself, but he's going to have to withhold if he ever wants to use that token. So he was able to upgrade his home and finally get the Frisco into its destination. Frisco immediately taken the map token, so not interested in keeping that on his charter to cut routes. And his destination run was only for 150. Ooh, not great. Fort Worth should be seeing an A train here, I assume, but he's going to have to half withhold to do it. So upgrading Wichita. And will we see the 8 here? I don't see why we wouldn't. Does John have a 4 train in that company? No, he has a 6, so he's not going to be fallen trainless. He pull pays. Huh. I would have thought we'd see the 8, but I guess he's not interested. Okay. Well, I will continue to run 2 companies in the Katy, 2 trains in the Katy. No problem with that. So we're finally seeing the Baton Rouge tile laid, and companies are going to be hitting their destination in New Orleans finally. Took a very long time for that to happen. Um, And the downside of that is that, you lose out on that extra run, which you can immediately flip in a stock round into extra shares. Um, and then more importantly, or maybe not more importantly, but as importantly, you're not doubling that revenue center like all the other players are. So your run is just going to be lower than everybody else's for a while. I think the big advantage is the double run though, and using that money for extra shares. Looking at the spreadsheet, in terms of runs, I'm still ahead, maybe a little bit less ahead in this operating round than I was last time, but still extending my lead. I think my net worth is going to take a hit soon as I emergency buy a train, um, but they are giving me plenty of time to just run this for all it's worth. Um, so he is upgrading Mobile and has no more tokens. Just looking at the token situation again for a second. GMO has one, and Southern Pacific has one. I think the SOPAC is the one I'm mostly worried about. Looks like he actually bought a train out of the Frisco into the GMO. Maybe he did that a while ago, actually. I'm starting to lose track. So the Frisco's run is only 210, and Southern Pacific will presumably be laying New Orleans and destinating both the Southern Pacific and the Texas Pacific, which are both of his companies. So that'll be a big influx of cash for him. I don't think that destination run is going to be all that amazing, though. It's going to be a yellow New Orleans. Okay. So I was describing the typical track layout in 1870, and we're starting to see that kind of X-type pattern develop. This eastern edge of the map is underdeveloped relative to the majority of games I've played because the MP has not floated and the IC is closed, and those are the two companies that are most interested in that part of the map. But we are starting to see that southern run and then the two crosses develop. So as expected, everybody's destinating, and presumably they will be taking the bonus. The Southern Pacific is going to be a pretty attractive company here with a 5 and a 6 and now hitting its destination, running for 370. No way for me to get in on that since he has already locked up all the shares. So Katie will overcome its great fear here, and I think unfortunately still does not have an amazing um, run for itself. It could run trains out of its destination down south here, but it's been tokened out enough places that it really can't take full advantage of that. So, okay. The run is marginally better than it was, and we'll continue our tradition of full paying. The market is getting depleted, but it's kind of artificial. There's been a lot of withholding and preparation for a monster train rush. So we're going to see people, I think, leaping towards better permanent trains in the next operating round. And I just need to make sure that I don't have to fall on a train that I can't run. I would really like an 8 train or, some kind of cheap train that I can just run and take advantage of my lead with. So I've overcome a lot of my anxiety in terms of track. I think that this is a reasonable upgrade to make. And then I should be able to hit Dallas instead of Austin. And can I also hit Mobile now? It's never clear to me if the destination is being doubled or not. It looks like it is. Just because sometimes it's unclear to me if I need to hit my destination as the end or if I need to run for my home. I think it's just the destination run that has those special rules. Wish I could hit another location here, but I will pay that out. And I'm still waiting for this A train to come out. I understand the allure of these longer trains, but I think these players are sandbagging a little bit in the sense that they're going to let me run away with this game if they don't start rusting trains. So I could be wrong, but I think the only undestinated company is the GMO. So he really needs to start working north, but he hasn't been getting any help from his other presidency to that end. Um, and he doesn't have the, capital in the company to really get any help. He needs to half pay and just suck it up and be able to lay that track for himself. Looking at the market, we have potentially two yellow companies. I imagine that Fort Worth will be withholding once. And I'm surprised that this guy didn't bring out the 8 already. Um, I was expecting that in the first operating round, but here we are, 3 operating rounds in, and there's no 8 train. Running just a 4 train and running it for 210 withholds and brings out the 8. Okay. So TP somehow is trainless. I missed how that came about. I think that's how his SP is running so well, because he had 2 trains in there. So he may fall on a permanent train here, which would give him very few dollars for shares in the stock round. Well, I guess it'd be enough. And there's really not that many shares available to buy, to be honest. Um, so I suppose he might just buy the permanent train here. Difference between a 8 and a 10 in terms of cost to my net worth is pretty negligible. I'm not overly concerned about it. Um, I just don't want to be in a situation where someone is running multiple permanent trains in a single company, um, which I don't think we're going to see. Could see that 5 train in the Santa Fe be permanent, and then he could run 2 trains with that. But I think if the 5 train is permanent, I will also be running 2 permanent trains, so maybe that's not the end of the world. TP is buying the 8 and just doing his destination. Looks like he laid track on M8, which is just this dit here. Not too exciting. So everyone but the GMO is destinated, and John Flagg is able to make some of the cash that he just emergency bought back by his destination run. So we are into the stock round. The bank has $5,000 left in it. I don't think we're going to be seeing it break, especially because now the MP is floating. MP floating, not a good decision, I don't think. I don't think it's going to have good track. I suppose that there are opportunities here, but who is floating that? Southern Pacific? No, it is not the Southern Pacific. So he is dependent on this token not cutting his runs anywhere and this token. I don't think that the other players are going to allow that. And I don't think that I've opened up the map so much with my paranoia that the MP is going to be a good company. So I think that's a waste of time. I am still cert locked, and there are no yellow shares available. I can redeem a cotton and then buy it as long as nobody buys the cotton share. I can also buy someone else's shares as well if I redeem that cotton share for myself. So I'll probably be doing that. And again, I'm harping on this, but I'm just trying to deny other players valuable shares. So John Flagg buying the GMO. And I think that I would rather have the cotton than the GMO. The cotton's share price alone is going to make it a much more valuable share. We are expecting the cotton to fall back once when I buy its train out from under it, but still. Okay, so if I redeem a share for myself, I run the risk of not actually being able to buy that share again with the undoing. So that is the flaw in my strategy, is that if I redeem my share, I'm going to then not be able to buy the treasury. But actually, Misher solved that problem for me, so now I can redeem this share and buy the GMO potentially. Granted, same problem. I'm not going to be able to buy that share if I redeem it. So I think I pass. And that will mean that I assume John Flagg will get that GMO share, and that'll probably be the only share that he's able to buy, really. Maybe I should buy that Mopac. Um, Mopac's not going to be very good, but it's probably better than, well, no, I'd rather have the cotton share. Okay, all right, so my decision's been made for me. And I think I'm pretty much on auto pass for the rest of this stock round. Hopefully they move kind of quickly. There's not going to be too many options for people to take. John snags that GMO share. I made a conscious decision that I wasn't going to be able to buy it anyways, so no loss to me. And now the only shares available are these Mopac shares. But I think they're going to be worse than the cotton shares, so I'm not going to redeem a share to buy one of those Mopac. The good news is that nobody else has any shares to buy either, at least other than Merlin of Chaos. We could see someone try and throw some shares from their treasury back into the market, which would be, I think, a mistake. The whole power of redeeming these shares is preventing other players from buying them, and I don't know that any of these players need the capital in their companies for trains. This game is starting to run quite long. I'm really hoping that we do not push through to 12s, because that will extend the game quite substantially. I don't think we'll see the bank break in this set of operating rounds, unfortunately, which means we have a long night in store. We do see some issuing of shares, and I guess the question becomes, do I want to buy one of those SLSF shares? If I issue here, I think I'm guaranteed to get one. So let's do that. I think the SLSF is going to be pretty good. So I'll redeem one, and then I'll be able to buy one of these Frisco shares. That's giving him a permanent train. Maybe it's a mistake, but I will bite the bullet and buy one of those shares. It's giving his company cash, but what are you gonna do? I mean, it's expensive, but it's going to be appreciating decently, and you get a $75 bonus just from buying the share, and he's going to get cash for a permanent train, so he's going to have a good run. I think it's definitely worth buying. I don't know why he did that. He can't even buy them. I guess he wants to get the cash into the company, but I'd rather just emergency buy the share. Especially, I think this makes it more likely that he's gonna just cap out his worth at 400 if people float his company up and he just pays. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really reissue shares in this game. So Misher still has no options really to buy shares, um, but opened up shares for other players. Yeah, I don't know. Seems like a mistake. But he's carefully considering his options. Passing, I'll pick up one of these Frisco shares. I'm not loving that John Flagg has surpassed me in cert count. I was not really anticipating that, but it has come to pass. He could potentially snap up of another of these Frisco shares as well, which could be unfortunate. So looks like Merlin is going to step in and prevent that shenanigans, so that's nice for me. And he's actually cert locked with 40% of the MP, so he has not floated this company. I imagine that we'll see that company float. He'll find a way, either redeem one of his shares from his other companies, could be the Fort Worth. Actually, well, that company's already yellow, so not going to be viable to do that. But John Flagg helps him out by floating the company. So only wrinkle in the stock round so far has been that reissue. Otherwise, I think I'm sticking to my guns and just auto passing pretty much. Okay, passing, and hopefully we will just see everybody kind of passing. Merlin, I think, got a little bit of a gift here in terms of help floating the MP. Gets the full treasury without having to buy 6 shares worth of a company that may not run very well. So selling out of the cotton, which is a strange decision. Um, okay, I think the cotton's strictly a better company, but whatever. Does hurt my net worth a little bit. Means it won't be floating up. Actually, someone else floats it up, but just giving shares to John, I don't know. I think this game is a little bit out of my hands at this point. If other players are gonna play kind of strangely, I don't know if I can really predict things. I think this game has kind of devolved into a run good companies game. Um, Late in the game here, everybody's just going to be trying to get big trains in their companies and pay out as much as possible, race to the end. So it's confusing to me that you would buy a non-paying share in the Mopac with undeveloped track. I will continue to pass. And hopefully we will be entering this stock round or this operating round with a quick pass from John Flagg. Let's see. Don't see a whole lot of opportunity here for him. I am looking at the cert count and seeing the downside to closing that IC share or that IC company. It's going to be, you know, an opportunity for the other players to catch up a little bit on cert count. But I think it was the right play. Frisco should be buying an 8 here, maybe just upgrading some random track. Not entirely sure. In terms of the Katy, not seeing a whole lot of track liability for it. And Misher is immediately laying track for the GMO / the MP. So would love to see the MP not given a bunch of free track. And I need to make sure that this upgrade does not go here for the MP. So I'm okay with the MP getting access down into Mobile and potentially New Orleans, but it's tokened out at Houston. I definitely do not want him to just get a straight shot into his destination in Dallas. Should be very feasible for me to block that, unless the SP is for some reason also colluding with the MP like the GMO player is. SP is upgrading DITS down south, and last time did not have a very good run, but this time should have a much better run as a result of it shuffling trains out of the TP. So the Katy now is going to upgrade this track here and make sure that the MP has no options. So I think that's good. And then now just running a 6 train, and I think, well, unfortunately still has to hit Little Rock, it looks like. No, can't avoid Little Rock and run into Dallas for a little extra money. Gonna pay that out and then buy the Cotton's train against order, and we'll see if what the Cotton can do with a 10 train. So we'll put $2 into the Cotton and plan on emergency buying that train. We'll see if the 5 trains are permanent or not. A little bit hard to say. The Katy with a 10 train, that's an interesting thought. Just looking at the routes here. Potentially worthwhile, but I don't know if I want to fall back on the Katy to shuffle trains. The Cotton's 10 train is, I think, potentially decent. May have to upgrade to get into New Orleans, and then run from the southeast over to its destination. I think that's a pretty viable route with some legs to it. I would prefer not to end up with a 12 train, and I think that that is a safe bet. So the MP is going to be stuck with the 12 train. ATSF has to withhold or half pay. He's laying track on F13. Let's see what that was. I missed that. So he's upgrading for the MP, it looks like. Okay, going to take it a while to get there, though. Cotton probably needs to start looking to what? Suppose could upgrade here. I think it's going to have to start looking to bypass or just extend this run a little bit. probably just want to upgrade its home a little bit in order to... So it looks like everything I want to upgrade is not viable. So do I need to just start creating some bypasses? Maybe. I am a little bit worried about what happens if I get token out at Austin, so maybe we'll lay this here. That doesn't help me at all. I'm starting to lose it. It's getting late. Could potentially leave myself an out here. Or maybe I should just start looking towards this and assume that I'm gonna have to run through New Orleans for max revenue. So let's give myself this option for if Baton Rouge ever upgrades. And then we'll buy the 10. And that hurts my net worth by $700, which is not great. Still $600 ahead of John Flagg. And he is 3 shares ahead of me. Gonna have to withhold a little bit to stay yellow here. And also I have better trains than him. I believe I also have better routes. So I think I'm okay. Merlin of Chaos, I don't think these MP shares are gonna pay off for him. And in fact, if I'm able to upgrade this city so he doesn't have a brown upgrade, that would be pretty incredible. Because then he'll never be able to bypass this track here. Or at least it'll take a long time. GMO able to destinate finally. Good news for him. And MP has to fall on a 12 train that I don't think he's going to have track for. GMO throws his token away. And did he actually take the map? Oh, sorry, he did take a map, but he had an extra token. So still some danger to that token. And I'm losing a little bit of track of the game state here. Just a lot of changes all at once. It looks like he did just drop a token somewhere on Little Rock, and he has cut the Cotton's run. Okay. The Cotton is tried to prepare for that, but this upgrade here actually screwed him a little bit. So the Cotton is now in a little bit of trouble, but that also really hurts the MP. So half of one, half of another. Yeah, that's not the saying. It really is getting late. I'm not making sense anymore. My stream of conscious is decaying. Okay, so Cotton probably going to have to start looking towards this track to try and get over to its destination. Fortunately, the Katy lead company is still safe. And we saw a 12 train come out, so everybody's just running a single permanent train. But the important part is where the permanent trains are and if they have track to run. So the Cotton is a liability at this point because it does not have a exciting 10 train run. So I think we need to upgrade this DIT here, and hopefully there's a peace sign that's available. There is. And we got to get that here so that we can start getting the Cotton back into its destination. It's feasible, but it's a little bit of work. I think the good news is that the other players probably aren't prioritizing blocking the Cotton. We're on to the Fort Worth. Fort Worth still has its destination run, really hasn't been cut anywhere, running just along that west coast of the map. And he's laying a double DIT, which don't know exactly where he's hoping to get there, but also gives me potentially upgrades into this track for the Cotton. Fort Worth is withholding. So he's withholding to stay yellow primarily. Eventually he could pick up a 12 train, but he is not going to be running an 8 and a 12 out of the Fort Worth with any sort of efficiency. His other company is the ATSF and the MP, so potentially could shuffle trains that way. But I think he is far enough behind that his withholds and buying trains are just going to extend the game, not change the ultimate outcome. So, looking back at the map here, TP also expects some withholds from him to stay yellow. Um, if the main goal is to stay yellow, probably should be half paying instead of withholding. So he actually did steal my upgrade, and I don't know if that was kind of a considered thought or if that was just bad luck on my part that he just wanted that $20 upgrade. Uh, I don't know. I don't think we'll ever know the answer to that question, but that is bad news for me. And the other interesting part is that I wanted to upgrade New Orleans, but there was no track available, and now St. Louis is upgraded. So I'm a little bit curious how that came about. But regardless, let's look at the spreadsheet here. I probably dropped a fair amount here. I did. John Flagg was the big gainer there. And I'm not going to be buying any more trains, so hopefully my lead is enough just to run away with the game. But I do need to rehabilitate the track for the cotton, and I am getting blocked by the other players pretty hard here. Cotton doesn't have any money, but it does have 2 shares redeemed, so it will have terrain money shortly. Um, and actually, now that I think about it, this upgrade is inconsequential because the cotton can run to this and still lay track that it wanted. So, not the end of the world that I thought it was. The sky is indeed not falling. St. Louis has somehow made it all the way to brown before I was able to upgrade New Orleans a single time. That's wonderful. Eventually, Kansas City would like to upgrade to gray. Nobody has been motivated to do that because I've been kind of dithering about track, and I don't know what the other players have been doing, but they haven't been upgrading for me, which, I mean, fair enough, they probably should not be. So Frisco running his A train, decent revenue. Um, and he's going to be getting pretty close, I assume, to maxing out the market here. Would like to just see some snappy play so that we can start causing this game to end. And amazingly, Briscoe is just withholding. So I don't know. People are really banking on a late game to come back in this. I guess it's in theory possible that by withholding and everybody just running a ton of 12 trains, they could catch up and overtake me. But boy, is that a painful game. And if I just keep paying out, um, I don't know. Am I going to build up a big enough a lead to just win while they all withhold and do nonsense? I think that's got to be my strategy. I'm not going to participate in this um, silliness. So withholding, um, and now the SP is up. SP, I may have wasted a track lay here. There may not be any brown tiles left in the game. That looks like it's probably the case. So that was a stupid decision on my part. Should have paid closer attention. So I think my priority with my 2 companies is to lay this upgrade here with Katie, and then a quick sharp turn with Cotton to rehabilitate my runs. And then after that, we can focus on just upgrading cities and DITs for whatever revenue they have to offer. Hopefully there's not that many tokens to worry about anymore. It looks like the SP is the major contender. The MP has tokens, and the MP unfortunately does have the ability to lay them to my deficit and hurt the cotton. Mobile and New Orleans are both viable blockades. Okay. Well, we will have to work on bypassing both of them with my other cities, but I'm going to establish my destination run again first. A lot of very slow play in decisions that don't really seem all that consequential. So I guess he's thinking about shuffling trains here, and he does indeed do that. So he's going to be running 2 trains in the SP and then emergency buying a 12 into the TP. Both my companies have $0, but the the Cotton is going to be able to get some cash into it by just running trains. So I don't know. Maybe I'll have to eat my words and actually um, buy one of these 12 trains. So I believe this is an optimal run with the 6. I'll just pay that out. Just because if other players start running 2 trains in their companies successfully, they may eclipse me in revenue. Granted, he's going to have to lose $1,000 in the TP um, to, make that work. Um, I don't know. He's several shares ahead of me, so if we both lose $1,000, maybe it's worthwhile. I don't know. And then if I fall back on the Katie, I don't think that's going to prevent me from hitting the end of the market. So maybe it is time to fall back there. So he creates a link up, but I don't think that helps me because of this tile here. So I still need to do this. And now I've bypassed the attempted blockade at Little Rock. The track in this game is really just not that tight. So generally able to bypass most blockades with enough effort. That's 8. And then 10 will, I suppose, bring me up to Oklahoma City. So 350 on the Cotton. I think that's a pretty optimal run. We'll pay that out. And then I can buy the 12 into the Katie if I want. And if I have a 6 and a 10 in the Cotton, am I going to have a 6 and a 10 run? Probably not. And I'm also, do I have a 12 run in the Katie? So I'll loop around this way and hit all this crap. Alternatively, I could come around over this way, but I do need to be a little bit careful about this blockade in New Orleans and Mobile. Okay. After criticizing the other players for taking a long time with their decisions, I think that I'm going to follow suit because I do worry a little bit that I'll lose this game if I do not run a 12. So 12 is going to be $1,100, which will put me even with John Flagg, but he has an $1,100 train that he's buying. So fine. I think I have the routes to support these trains. I don't know. It's a hard decision. If I do it next operating round, is that a terrible decision? Bank's going to break in the next operating set for sure. I think I need to do this. Okay, fine. So $70 here, and we'll buy that. So the MP has destinated. Okay, I guess I gave him that destination. That's funny. And we'll see where that token ends up. I do not think that he's going to be able to cut my runs with that single token. And he pays for 310. So if the KD falls back, floats up, and then pays 3 times, it actually will cost me hitting 400. But if I had not fallen back, I would have hit 400 too early. So it's inefficient either way, I guess. At this point, I need to just make sure that this map opens up enough So the 12 run for the Katy is going to be from Oklahoma City down this side of the map and into the south, I think. So I'm going to need to upgrade this here. I don't know. There's a lot of upgrades that I should be doing, I guess. There's always the possibility that John was not actually planning on buying a permanent train um, into the TP, and he's just shuffling trains. Um, but I imagine, based on the Fort Worth withholding, we probably will see some 12 trains continue to come out. GMO, St. Louis is gray before Kansas City somehow. That's pretty incredible. Um, and the MP is running for the first time. Running for what? Well, the 12 run and hitting its destination probably is going to have pretty good run actually. Probably want to avoid this upgrade here for the MP. That way he just has to end in Dallas or Fort Worth. Well, we'll see. If this run is good, I may regret my decision not to float this company. A lot had to go right for this company, though, I think. And this Southern Pacific still is kind of inexplicably just sitting on this token. Would have expected him to have dropped that somewhere at this point. MP paying for 400. I don't think that justifies starting that company. It's not a bad run, but it's not so good that a late game start is worthwhile. I don't think. Texas Pacific, trainless. We'll see if he buys the 12 or if he's just shuffling. Got to assume it's going to be the 12. So stay in yellow. And he buys the 12. Okay. So I think I probably made the right decision to bring out the 12 in the Katy. I own 100% of the company, so the 12 train is going to run pretty well. I am basically $2,000 ahead of people. So I think I'm still good. I don't know. It gets a little bit tricky to really tell. The track game becomes kind of important here in terms of maintaining your runs. The MP is the only token that I expect to easily come out here. And he's going to get to decide where he wants to drop it. Can't drop it in Dallas, so run won't be cut there. Looks like New Orleans was already dropped. I think I missed that. So that does cut runs. So we need to bypass New Orleans. And I think it's possible to do that with a straight upgrade here and then that weird curved straight upgrade here. We'll see if I'm able to do that. Fort Worth, still half paying. Not entirely sure what's going on here. I am the minority investor in this company, so I would love to see some better payments from this president. So I think the Katy and the Cotton have to lay these two tracks here. Southern Pacific, not sure where he's interested in going. He already has tokens in New Orleans, and New Orleans is still unable to upgrade. So I think it's because this is an L city that it was able to upgrade when New Orleans wasn't. I don't know this tile roster very well. And looking at the spreadsheet, last OR, I was behind Merlin of Chaos, who is the MP player. Wow, okay. I think that's because he got his destination run there, so he had an extra run. I don't think that I'm overly worried about him catching me. So Southern Pacific is laying K4. Let's see where that was. There, okay. Whatever. and he ran for 520, pretty good, but that's with 2 trains, so I think I'll be able to equal that with my companies. And let's see what Frisco's doing. Frisco already has his destination run, and I don't know that he cares that much about down here, so hopefully we won't be seeing him just lay random blocks for me. I need the left turn upgrade, which is unavailable. Great. And then I need this track here. So that is a problem. That is a rather large problem. I will have to find this track, which is right here. And that's the track I laid a long time ago, so I'm blocking myself. So Frisco is operating up north here, and now that I'm looking at this, I wonder if I accidentally am extending the game by buying this 12 train. Um, there is $400 left in the bank and what, like 8 companies to operate. Pretty conceivable that it could break there. Um, I guess that's an average of over $500 per company, so probably not going to happen actually, but still. Um, I would like this game to end. So I was hoping for this upgrade here. It doesn't look like it's going to be possible. There is the possibility of doing this here and then upgrading that way and bypassing both of these cities in case Mopac tokens out there. So maybe I should start planning for that. Okay. And no run here, so I'll buy this. And looking at the net worth, that puts me actually behind John Flagg, which is very concerning. So this cotton better run pretty darn good or else I am screwed. Okay. So it ends up being a closer game than I thought it was going to be. I I will have to look back at this game at another time and determine whether or not it was the right move to buy this 12 train. And it's really unclear to me. Looks like Kansas City finally getting upgraded, and that doesn't help me all that much. Cotton, he's going to lay. Well, I think I messed up again, didn't I? Because that track is not available. So I need this. And we'll see if I'm able to make this connection or not. So we have a 10 train and a 6 train. And the 10 train is going to run up here. But he actually cannot run 2 trains through that because of the way this has been upgraded. So this run is going to be pretty bad. Huh. Yeah, I screwed myself with this 12 train purchase. I can't run all these trains. I should have looked at the map a little bit more carefully. Okay, this is brutal. Only 290 with these 2 trains. That is not going to be enough to get me back in this game. Okay. So we need this track to upgrade here, and I need this connection down here. I'm crazy. I have a destination token I can run for. So let's reset all this. The 10 train is going to run down here on the East Coast, and the 6 train will run on the West Coast. Still not a great run, but much better than what it otherwise would be. So I think we run from New Orleans through these dits here. Here. Okay. So the 6 train is going to be here, and the 10 train will be on the other side. Okay. So I've rehabilitated this run a little bit, but it needs to get a lot better to stay in this game. 530. Okay, pay that out. And I need this right here for, I think, my game to be salvaged. we'll just look at the net worths here. I am narrowly ahead of John Flagg and the rest of the players. And John Flagg is going to run this 12 train in the TP, so he's going to be pulling ahead of me. I think I lost this game with that 12 train purchase, unfortunately. That may have been a mistake. All right. Well, that connection's going to help me. Yeah. So the more the map opens up, the better for me now. Since we're all running really big trains, I need to just optimize my runs. Missouri Pacific has a token delay. Could token here and block me here, which would be pretty problematic. I think this Memphis token also would be a problem for the Katy. So we'll see. Yeah, looking at the net worth, it's quite close. The yellow shares may end up paying out here. And I think they both are pretty easily staying yellow, especially because they have half pay as an option. So MP just laying track up north because he has a 12 run, is just trying to hit all the dits he can. Running for just 430, and he pays that out. The problem is these yellow shares. Even with their runs being kind of similar to mine, they have just a few extra shares compared to me. So I think they're going to be able to eke out a win with that. That is unfortunate. I still think it was the right move to close the ick, but maybe buying that 12 train was a game losing decision. I don't know. When you're playing live, you don't have time to do the math and really think about these things. In an asynchronous game, I would have really broken out the spreadsheets and figured out if that 12 train made sense or not. We should look at the market though and see if that 12 train extended the game, and it looks like it did not. So at least I don't have to feel bad about making this game go later. I am a little bit confused about what's taken so long here. Two companies running back to back should be pretty quick, but doesn't seem to be the case. So he actually lays the track I need. So I think my runs have been saved. Granted, he did just token on Memphis, which I was a little bit worried about. Fort Worth still half paying. And now we have the TP. Fort Worth is the company that I am half invested in. So I need this company to start paying out if I have any chance of winning this game. But it looks like I'm going to lose. That's painful. It's a long game to lose on. All right. Texas Pacific. No money. I don't know that I care all that much about the track. He's going to be laying. And in terms of bypassing Memphis, the Katy has no money and will never have any money. The Cotton, however, as a result of those redeemed shares, will be able to lay this track here if it wants to. I'm just thinking about bypassing Memphis with these three tracks here, but I think that's probably not going to be happening anytime soon. At least this 12 train run is not very good, just 370. I will also point out that the Cotton ends up being one of the highest revenue companies in the game, and I have gone ahead and sold a share of it to redeem it for the Frisco, which has been full withholding for no reason. So that is not great. Okay, we are into the stock round. This should be a very quick stock round. I don't think there's really any available shares to buy. I could, in theory, sell the Frisco and buy the MP. The Frisco has been withholding for no good reason, and the MP seems motivated to pay. Yeah, hard to justify this. But this should be the last stock round and we should be entering the last operating round. So no shares to be bought down here. And really the question is, do I want any MP shares? And I think he's going to be increasing by 20. This is 25, so the difference is actually not that good. And also by selling the Frisco, I potentially am hurting his net worth and everybody else's net worth. So yeah, I think I will sell that and take this. Okay. So that hurts everybody else's net worth, and I think that's probably a better share. So GMO is being sold, and he is buying what? The MP as well. Okay. So I'm not invested in the GMO at all. I think it makes sense to sell those shares. John Flagg, he is also ahead of me in net worth, and probably should also consider buying one of those MP shares. But if he passes, I would be happy to sell something else, and I would buy that share then. What would I sell? I don't have a whole lot because I'm invested in my own companies and yellow shares, so I may actually not be able to buy it. All right, well, we'll just see. John also selling the GMO and presumably buying the MP, which we do see. So I think everybody from here on out should just be passing, and hopefully we quickly bring this game to an end. GMO just redeeming shares, really no purpose to that. And I'll pass. Hopefully everybody else will continue passing. Merlin's selling the GMO, presumably going to be buying the Frisco since it's the only share available, but taking his time to think about it. And does. So that's going to repair a little bit of the damage I did to the Frisco net worth by selling that share since it's going to float up again. That's a little frustrating. And somehow the Katie is still not made its way to the ceiling. Not sure what that's about. Santa Fe upgrading Springfield for a few extra bucks. Okay. Is he even running that track? Looks like he is. Running for 510. Okay, that's problematic. It's a very high revenue with just a 10 train. So Cotton, I think we agreed, is going to be laying down here to try and bypass Memphis. And I don't know that it has a better use of track per se. So let's start. Oh, okay, no gentles. So let's upgrade this gentle to start that long road home. And it looks like actually there is not a valid upgrade for that either. Okay, so we, I think, are just getting in trouble here. So does that mean we just stop caring about track and just run our trains? Might be getting to that time of night. Could lay this. Nope, still no gentles. Okay, so I think that we are going to stop min-maxing track here and just start running our routes. So we have a better route for the 6 train by running into Kansas City and here. That increases our run by 20, and our 10 train is hitting a lot of dits, but I think that's basically unavoidable. We're not going to be able to double tap Kansas City or St. Louis. We do have this bypass here now. So does that give us a better run somewhere? No, because we still need to hit our home in Memphis. But it would be better not to hit New Orleans if we can avoid it. We could hit Jackson if this was upgraded here. Okay, so we will upgrade that then. Hit this and go out here for this. Increases my run by 30, pay that out. It's tedious to do this, but the game is close enough that I don't want to look back with regret if I lose by like $2. So I am currently in the lead, but there are a lot of shares, 12 shares left for Merlin to pay out, and I'm only up by 600. I do have 3 of those 12 shares, so the only net gains on me 9 shares. Okay. It's going to be, I mean, it's going to be a photo finish, I think. Difference is going to be within like $200. MP passing track and running his 12 train for 430. Pays that out. GMO with just a 6 train, going to be quite underwhelming, I think. And I don't know that he has any real track decisions to be making here either. I really need to be using this time to look for upgrades for the KD to take advantage of. It's this Memphis blockade that's really going to hurt me, I think. But it's so hard to find track because all these gentle curves are unavailable. And then most of the green upgrades are also unavailable. So I just don't know if there's going to be an option here. Could put this double gentle curve and start heading up this way to open up a gentle for the cotton to lay here. That might be my best bet. GMO laid what? This here. Not sure what that's about. That may have given me the upgrade I need though. Left turn. Nope. Okay. So just paying 260 on the GMO. We need the Texas Pacific to run for not that much. And he is upgrading here, so looking to bypass Oklahoma City and get into Kansas City, which presumably is going to increase his run by a good amount here. He pays for 380. Fort Worth, last company. We need this guy to start paying. He has been half paying for a very long time to get a 12 train, and it's hurting him more than it's hurting me, so I guess I can't complain because he is my competitor. So maybe I should be not complaining about him not optimizing his revenue or his payouts. And do I care about this link here, bypassing Oklahoma City? I don't know that I do. In fact, it might give me a double destination run with the cotton, so I may want to just facilitate that. I probably do want that to happen actually, because I can run from Memphis to Fort Worth twice then. So that actually could be game winning for me. Let's look at the spreadsheet here, see if I'm winning or losing. So I am running for barely the most, and I am currently in the lead. So if the status quo remains, I will win this game. And I think that I may have just seen the route that's going to get me there with the double tap of Fort Worth for the double destination. That could be pretty crucial. Again, it's on the cotton, which ends up running quite a bit better than my Katie. And the cotton, of course, is that company that I was selling out of. It's funny the things that come to pass. I'm going to want these dits to upgrade if I'm going to be running this track. I'm going to be hitting a lot of dits if I try and double tap that area. Token in St. Louis. Oh my God. How are there still tokens in this game? So that is really not good. That hurts everyone but the GMO and the MP. GMO we don't care about. MP we definitely do care about. So Katie needs to find a way to get around that. And there is this upgrade at least. But I think there is still not a left upgrade. There's not. So I need to set up the cotton for success here with this bypass. And I think that is with this track, a straight here, gentle curve straight here will allow the um, bypass for a double tap on that. Okay, so we'll lay the straight here. And unfortunately, the gentle is still unavailable. Okay, so these tokens are proving to be very problematic. Well, we'll set up for it. And then done with track here. And we've been tokened out as noted. So instead of running towards this, we need to start running towards the left-hand side of the map, I think. So we'll head this way. And I think then we head up this way for 420. So that's going to cost me $60 on the run, which is a problem. So maybe I don't hit my destination anymore and instead head down this way. Is that going to be more? So that cost me $50 on my destination. It's a little bit better to head that way. And actually, I think I have, do I have a better route that allows me to run differently? I can hit this DIT for the full 12 run, which is going to cost me $40 on the run. Okay. Well, I think I need to do that and hope that the other player's run is impacted equally. Does that hurt the Frisco? It probably does, because they don't have a token there. Let's see where the Frisco was running before. So they were running through it, and they're not going to be able to run through it now that they, I mean, they're not going to be able to run through it with two trains or anything like that now that they have a second train. All right. But I think Frisco's run is still going to improve, and unfortunately, my run got worse, so that's going to help every player but me in the game. Oof, this is coming down to a nail-biting finish. So runs for 640. That's a huge change in the game. Unfortunately, Misher is getting the most of that, and he is far and away the last place. So not the most consequential, but the other two players have 2 shares of that I don't have. So there is an upgrade to bypass the token blockade there. And my goal here was to get the cotton here. So I'm hoping that that opened up a gentle curve for a cotton. And it did. Okay, so maybe I still have life in this game. Let's see. Okay, and then let's double tap our destination here. So Fort Worth with the 10 train, I think that's going to be down south because of all these dits. Okay. And let's come up this way, like this. Oh, I'm tokened. Okay, but I think I can still do it. Let's see. Maybe I can't. I think I need to go through Dallas here. and then come down this way because there's no way to make that turn. So this run is not going to be as exciting as I was hoping. So that's the 10 run. And I suppose in theory I can do that with a 6. So maybe we should put the 6 down there and bypass Jackson. And then with our 10 train, let's head up this way here to head to Memphis like this. Okay. So Memphis, well, I don't know that we care that much about Memphis. So let's instead head to Chicago, and then with our 6, we can actually hit into St. Louis if we switch trains and do that with the 10. All right, so this is painful. So the 6 train is going to be up here. And just confirming that we are getting our destination. It looks like we are. 10 train is going to be down this way. And we can hit actually this. So that's pretty nice. All right, 670. So we actually gained a bunch of money there. Okay. So doing everything we can to stay alive in this game, but it's tedious and very slow end of game. These late game tokens have been brutal. Really have changed the game state in a very, very tight game. And it's annoying because it keeps making us change routes. So it's slowing everything down. Brutal end. I am narrowly ahead by about $400, but I've had all my companies run, and I think the other players are still waiting on some really heavy runs in the TP in Fort Worth. So MP laying a dit that I don't know gets him anywhere too exciting. And he's probably just reworking his route as well. I need to figure out what I'm doing here for the Katy. The Cotton's run probably is pretty set up. The Cotton has money for track still, and we may want to revisit this idea of bypassing this for the Katy. Unfortunately, there's not enough track points left in the game without someone else help, so that's gonna be a non-starter. Katy could potentially look. No. Yeah, it's going to depend on what the other players do. MP is going for 500. Pretty good run. So we may just want to start upgrading dits and see if we can get an extra buck here and there. Because I don't think it's going to be possible for the Katy to get any better of a run since it runs before the Cotton. So it's not going to be able to use those track points of the Cotton. Let's just look at the Katy's run for a second. For some reason, it's not showing on the map. I think the game is starting to lag. Katy's run. Am I looking at the right company? Oh, that's right. I think I made the decision not to hit my destination for some reason. I think this is a glitch. How could the Katy have run through there? Something weird's going on. I think the website is glitching. I don't remember what the Katy's run was. I could refresh. I don't know that it matters. There was a period of time where the game would kind of desynchronize. I wonder if that's happened. It's been a long time since I've seen that. Let me refresh and see what happens. And if we go back to the Katy now, it does show the route, so there was some kind of glitch. And TP is now taking actions. A12. So over here, not entirely sure where they're trying to head. And he's running for 380, but presumably he's going to increase his run somewhere. $450. Oof. Everybody's runs are jumping up. I think they're going to catch me. Fort Worth. He was half paying for a long time to stay yellow, but then accumulated all his cash and was unable to actually achieve a 12 train. So that's a little bit interesting. Looks like he's not laying any track, and we'll see what his net worth is. I'm very curious to see what this spreadsheet's going to show. I'm ready to be heartbroken here and lose by 50, $55 or something. So running for 430. We're into the last operating round of the set. And in terms of values, I was pretty much blown out of the water there by Merlin, who is now $200 ahead of us. So we have lost the game. Great. Looks like his MP Gambit did pay off for him, which is unfortunate. I had the opportunity to start the MP, but I didn't see the value in it. So I guess he recognized it. Nice. All right, let's focus on the track for a second, and then we'll lament our loss at the end when it doesn't matter anymore. So running for, well, I don't know. I get the feeling that the map is not updating very well right now. Maybe because there's a lot of actions in the game. Running for 600. And the MKT could upgrade a DIT here for $20. And now has a bypass of Oklahoma that I don't think we had before into Wichita. I don't know. I think we just got to look at the track here. So I am hitting that DIT. That makes sense to upgrade that. 12 trains running as a 12. And I don't know. I mean, so is hitting my destination not worth it? Because I just have so little track to run? Hmm. It could be the case. Yeah. I'd be curious to go into master mode and try and auto route this and just confirm that I'm running the actual optimal route. But I suspect that I am. I don't think there's any reason to hit my destination here, so we'll pay this out. And then Mischer's up. Briscoe just running his trains, it looks like. And I think the, lesson from this game is that I wasn't able to defend my routes. My routes got cut multiple times: Memphis, St. Louis, New Orleans, Little Rock. And despite all my paranoia in the mid game about setting up these bypasses, there were just too many tokens to overcome. So wasn't able to defend my routes and fell behind as a result. Whether or not that is the only reason is hard to say. I mean, certainly having a share deficit in terms of people exceeding their share limit by 5 shares compared to me is definitely a contributing factor, right? I mean, that's hundreds and hundreds of dollars at the end of the game. Um, And does that come back to the decision to close the ick? Potentially, but a lot changes in the game if I don't close the ick, I think, in terms of me falling on, other permanent trains, although I ultimately fell on the 12 voluntarily. So I guess in that light, maybe closing the ick was a bad idea. I certainly could have exceeded my share limit by a fair amount with the ick, but would I then have to emergency buy and sell shares? We'd have to go back and look. I don't know. It seemed like the right decision at the time, so I'll stand by it. All right, last run for me. Um, I don't know that there's a more efficient route. This would be another one to check in the auto route. But I think double tapping the destination in general is going to be worthwhile. Um, and I'm hitting some of these $60 cities, making full use of my trains. So it may be as good as we're going to get. I suppose that we could look towards Austin rather than some of these dits. Um, but I don't think the way the map has turned out, I'm going to be able to do that. So let's not do too much more harm to the game length and just pay it out. Um, I think based on the spreadsheet, there's no way I can come back to this. I was down by 200 in the last OR, and he was running for 200 more. I don't think his runs are going to get any worse. I don't see a reason why they would. Um, and my runs didn't get any better. So, yeah. Looks like MP paying out 500, GMO, and then we're on to the last two companies. Hopefully, we just see a quick pay here. GMO is running for the least in the game, I want to say, 340. Uh, yeah, by a fair margin. In the Frisco has run for 710. However, he did withhold on at least one run this operating set. So if you average that out, it's not actually that good of an investment compared to the other shares, I wouldn't say. We'll look at the spreadsheet and just confirm that. Yeah, so he withheld. So if you don't withhold here and you just run it out, it probably ends up being about the same amount. And in terms of hitting the edge of the stock market, the SOPAC does. I am one share off, which we knew was going to happen. Um, and the Frisco is way behind because he had to withhold a bunch. So looking at the Katie, um, I paid out pretty consistently. Did fall back that one time when I chose to fall in the 12. And again, we've kind of talked about how that maybe was not a good decision, but at the time it seemed like the right decision. Last two companies to operate. Hopefully they just pull it quickly. TP getting another DIT into his run, and I guess more importantly, potentially bypassing the blockade at Topeka, although I imagine that was already accomplished a while ago, especially since Kansas City opened up in gray. Surprised it took so long for Kansas City to open up in gray. Nobody wanted to run through there. I guess when this upper link was created, then it was motivating for people to run through there. But before then, nobody wanted to do it. Looking at the track development, we do kind of see an abstract X from this side to this side, and then the top and the bottom, as I described. So people want to talk about 1889 track being stereotypical or whatever. I don't know if that's really unique to that title. I think most maps in 18xx tend to develop similar, large scale patterns. It's the details that matter. And this map in 1889 are, no exception in that the details of where track ends up makes for a very different game. Final company to run, Merlin Achaeus's FW. Never did end up getting that 12 train, but who am I to criticize him because I'm pretty sure he won by like $400. Yep. So interestingly, the player that said they'd never played before wins this game, and it's a wider margin than I was expecting. I thought it was going to be, sub 200 or like $50, but ends up being $400. Second and third, also about $400, give or take, and then last place by a good margin. So it was a very long game. Got very tedious at the end there. Um, but I think that the early game was interesting. Getting around 100% of the KD was fun. Um, and probably should have redeemed some of those shares when I had the chance. Probably should not have redeemed the cotton share in retrospect. Uh, I am divided whether or not buying that 12 train out of pocket was worthwhile or not. I I couldn't tell you even after the game ended whether it was worthwhile or not. Um, could very well have resulted in me winning. Could have very well have resulted in me being in third place instead of second. I don't know, but it seemed to make sense. I think closing the ick hurt me because I lost a lot of the share density I'd built up, but it also saved me from falling on a train. So I guess those two goals, avoiding the permanent train and then falling on the permanent train, are at odds from one another. So maybe I had to double down. If I close the ick, just commit to running the trains I had rather than out of pocketing a train. Or vice versa. Maybe I just had to commit to buying a ton of ick shares, running them in green or yellow for a couple operating rounds, and then just racing to the end, like Merlin of Chaos did with a share density victory. Yeah, so well played to Merlin. A good first game of 1870 to him. And Track Talk will be back with additional commentary and live play in the future. Thanks for watching.